Fantasy Maiden Wars has ended. Just in time for Fantasy Maiden Wars to begin. Am I right, boys? No, this is a bonus. This is bonus. Fantasy Maiden Wars concluded yesterday, but I decided a while back what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do is... Well, I have to sign in. God damn it. What I want to do is I wanted an excuse to go to the library because there's a lot of informations. Alright, here you go, chat. Here you go. Enjoy. Enjoy. Let's get reading. Can you increase the speed by a little bit so it's the same speed as the Moko? It's a little too slow. We gotta speed it up. Alright, so we're not here to play. We're here to read. Thing is, I'm pretty sure the music in the game, if I go to the music room and play it. Okay. So I can... How much music do I have? There's quite a number of themes in here I don't have. There's no autoplay feature, is there? There's no autoplay feature in here. Okay. Alright, well I guess I'll just play a song, read, and then go to the next. Okay. The theme of everyone's favorite Stage 1 boss from EOSD, Rumia. Just so you know, the reason this arranger's name is a little cringe is because I heard she was the ability to manipulate darkness and got excited. No matter how old I get, I'll always be a Chunyu Bibu at heart. This is actually the first song I ever ordered a redo on myself, as in I didn't like my first go and started over. It was originally a more intense rock tune, but then I thought Rumia should sound more like Carefree and asked the team to let me start over. The finished version is a straightforward 4-on-the-floor dance track. The peppiness of the accordion gives it a lighthearted, mellow, and uninhibited feel. One of my favorites for sure. Sitars just sounds so exotic. Alright, so that's not why we're here. We're here to read the Chronicle. So we have all these characters in here. At -2 because apparently they show up later in New Game Plus or something. But we're just here to read. We're here to read Fantasy Maiden Wars. The Library. A Maiden of Culture. Open the Gensokyo Chronicle while playing a song. Ah, there you go. Hieda no Akyu. Title, Memory of Gensokyo. Capable of not forgetting anything she's seen once. Debut, perfect memento in strict sense, etc. The 9th child of Miyare, approximately 10 years old. What? What? Where did you get that information? Serving as the master of the Hieda family. The children of Miyare refers to all those people Hieda no Akyu is a reincarnation of. One is born every 100-odd years, inheriting improved recall as well as the memories of their predecessor, which they apply to their role as compilers of the Gensokyo Chronicle. Nonetheless, it seems they only inherit part of their predecessor's memories related to the Gensokyo Chronicle. So in reality, they use their improved recall to read through the Hieda family's wealth of resources, then collect the latest information and compile it. The children of Miyare have short lifespans for unknown reasons. Akyu herself says she won't live to see her 30th summer. Preparation process for reincarnation takes several years as well, means they have notably less time to live than other humans. During their 100-odd years between reincarnations, they leave Gensokyo and work for the Yamas. While they are burdened with an extremely cruel fate, Akyu almost never complains about it. Given that she has given the state of Gensokyo her careful attention, she terms the modern Gensokyo a fortunate time to live in, and she is looking forward to her next incarnation. Her outlook on life seems quite positive. She remarks that the worst part about her situation is that every time she reincarnates, all of her human connections will have to start over from scratch. But even then, humans and yokai are close in modern Gensokyo. The yokai friends she's made seem to be alleviating the fear and isolation she feels towards her inevitable reincarnation. Akyu compiles the 9th Gensokyo Chronicle, which, possibly due to its change in tone from previous editions, allows a reader to a glimpse into her own life and perspective.
she appears to be friends with the flower shop's daughter, who goes to Keine's elementary school. Her favorite music is Yoga Kudan, FM synth music. That's true, actually. And she loves Rabbit Hot Pot and black tea. So some of the shit you made up, but the FM synth stuff is legit. Because that's actually, in lore universe, Akyu's music collection is not what it's called. Akyu's Untouched Score is 5 mixes of remastered tracks, remastered PC98 tracks. The difference, aside from some bonus tracks, is that basically the FM synthesizer, I think is just straight up what it is. The audio channels that are in the PC98 games there's a certain amount of audio channels that exist in it, and one of those audio channels is dedicated to sound effects. And Akyu's Untouched Score, all I don't know if it's 5, all the audio channels are allowed to actually be a part of the music. So they're basically high definition versions of the PC98 soundtrack. Not in order, though. So the first one to come out is not for highly responsive to prayers, and so on and so forth. But it is in universe that Akyu is a big fan of FM synth, and she preserves music with it, and she laments that it's falling out of style. It's kind of neat. And you know what? Her theme is also done in FM synth. Her music from her book, A Perfect Memento in Strict Sense, and the music CD from Silent Sinner in Blue are FM synthesized. So they're PC98 style. So Child of Miyare is in that style. Same with Tatsuki spell card. Pretty good though. In addition, she's famous for speaking of fairies with vitriol. In fact, she describes ways to bait fairies and recommends teaching them hard lessons in certain sections of the Gensokyo Chronicle. Perhaps once she was once on the receiving end of a harmful fairy prank. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Is it the same speed? Okay, I have to remove. I gotta remove the old one. Oh, I think it's already gone, right? Oh no, I want to get rid of the old one because I don't want both of them. Okay. No, get rid of it. Did I remove it? Renamed. No? What? No, not renamed. No, get rid of it. Remove it. Actions. Remove. Bad request. Emote not found. I'm going to fucking kill you. Alright. Whatever. Perhaps she was once on the receiving end of a harmful fairy prank. In Symposium Post-Mysticism best understood as a supplement to the Gensokyo Chronicle, Akyu seems to have hit her stride, calmly penning unreasonable abuse into her sentences. This has raised suspicions that deep down she's actually black-hearted. Akyu also regularly makes appearances in Forbidden Scrollery. In it, one can experience a charmingly new side of her, unseen in prior works, as the protagonist Kozuzu's friend. I agree, actually. I think Akyu is a very, very great character in Forbidden Scrollery. In Fantasy Maiden Warriors, Akyu's position is that of a knowledgeable individual on the same wavelength as Keine, because she took Keine's job. She possesses advanced knowledge and a deep understanding of Gensokyo. Her role as a crew member of the Pelican ship is that of an explainer and operator. Her hard work is responsible for the vessel's ability to avoid any attack. Please read the Gensokyo Chronicle carefully so you can lead the wonderful and safe Gensokyo life you deserve. So here's her portraits. Oh, wrong. Here's all her portraits. Wow, 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 wow. Got quite a few, doesn't she? I don't even know if we hit the loop yet. Oh my god, how many does she have? Is it just giving them randomly? I think it is. Alright. That's Akyu. Back to the music room. Fluttering foodstuffs in the night sky. The theme for Rumia's demarcation. While working on the Mystic arc, suddenly Rumia got a new move. With that decided, I took responsibility and spun together this new arrange. It's just awesome when the music changes, right? This version is a refinement of the old discarded rock arrange, further adjusted for coolness and cuteness. If you happen to see a new character, give him a quick nibble with demarcation. Oh, don't worry. I did. I gave him many yummy. It's the glossary. Alice. Alice Margatroyd, 7-colored puppeteer, capable of manipulating dolls, perfect cherry blossom, etc. Not quite correct, but also, you know, technically not correct, but also very correct. A magician living in the forest of magic. Her first Windows appearance was in Stage 3 of Perfect Cherry Blossom, where she fought the players as they try to resolve the incident, then gave them a hint. Since then, she's appeared in many times Toho Works. As a semi-regular character. While she's a magician, her magic is almost entirely devoted to manipulating dolls, so she is rarely seen using ordinary magic. That said, that doesn't mean she's bad at ordinary magic, and she's described as an all-rounder with no particular weaknesses. She's calm and driven, rarely making small talk when she goes out to resolve incidents, etc. This isn't to say she's unsociable, though, and she even said to be kind. Perfect Memento, as Trick said, introduces us to a famous episode where she protects humans lost in the forest. Famous episode, huh? And even lets they stay at her house. So you can tell that whoever was translating this was not really doing it. While it says she didn't talk much, which was creepy, considering that she saved their life, calling her creepy for that seems a bit much. Moreover, her kindness doesn't extend only towards the weak, as an immaterial missing power when she offers to guide Kaguya out of the forest of magic even after losing the battle. And again, in Scarlet with a Rhapsody, she says she's out on her investigation to help everyone. Holy shit, look at that scroll bar. As for her origin, apparently she was originally a human who learned to use magic through training. She hasn't been a magician for long, so she retains some habits from when she was human, like eating and sleeping even though she doesn't need to. Also, considering that she does puppet performances in the village and her room is extremely neat when she invites the 3 fairies and in strange and bright natured deity, her daily life seems rather difficult for magicians like Marissa and Patchouli, who are single-minded about their research. That's not to say that she never does her own magical research, however, as she tells I of Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red that her goal is an autonomous doll, a fully autonomous doll. Regarding her dolls, she does give off the image of a real puppet master, controlling them through strings. However, in Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red, she states that they'll basically do what she says as long as she regularly gives them orders, implying that they can be made to act in pre-configured patterns. Also, since the strings she uses are magical strings, ultimately she seems to be using magic to move them. While the magical details are fairly unclear, the strings don't appear to be physical. At one point, Yomu says that even cutting through the space between her and her dolls didn't cut the strings. That said, the image of her controlling them with strings attached to her fingers is so stylish it's hard to give up. Additionally, she appears in the final PC-98 game Mystic Square where she fights the protagonist. While there's no clear answer to how much this affects the Windows world building, when she talks to Reimu, Marissa, and PCB, they act like they already know each other. Well, she does anyway. Mystic Square is where the idea that she is Shinki's daughter comes from. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, she appeared near the beginning, acting as the brain of the group. Borrowing the PC-98 idea that she used to live in Makai, the story sets it up so that she's moved against Sokyo just recently. She regularly exchanges letters with Shinki. In the final arc, she finally paid a visit to her home in Makai. This is where we learned about the kind of person she wants to be, as well as her connection with medicine. How many do you think I can control at once? I like Alice in this game, and I like the connection she has with Mystic Square. Best friends atop the Silent Lake. Our kind of sort of main heroine of the Scarlet arc, the theme of Daiyousei, aka Dai. Just by giving her lines, she's unavoidably come across as an OC, so I just arranged it based on my own image of her. It needed to be innocent to match her appearance, but I also wanted to get across how she acts like Cirno's big sister. Wishful thinking. While the song's overall vibe is cute, it has some subtle mature phrases too. She's a reliable healer and supporter. Raise her with care. I keep going out the whole way. I need to do the portrait. That's the wrong button, streamer. Alice. Sometimes her eyebrows disappear. Alice. Alice. Alright. Ayaya. Before Aya, I need to drink milk. I need it. Tengu closest to the village. Capable of manipulating wind. Debut. Phantasmagoria, Flower View, etc. A crow Tengu living on Yokai Mountain, a member of the mountain's news media, and publisher of an independent newspaper called Boom Boom Modern Newspaper. Her first game appearance was in Phantasmagoria Flower View. At around the same time, a book called Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red was released that contains Aya's newspaper articles and interviews. That released within a week of Phantasmagoria Flower View, by the way. At that point, the game Shoot the Bullet had already been planned out, and Aya serves as the player character in it. She appears as a reporter in each of these works, but in Mountain of Faith, she appears as one of the Tengu, a species who rule over the game's setting, Yokai Mountain. She bars the player's path there. As a character, Aya has quite a dual nature when it comes to her behavior, split between when she acts as a newspaper reporter and when she acts as a member of Mountain Yokai Society. In her reporter mode, she talks to fairies and humans alike, and even when criticizing someone, she never drops her polite attitude, with a few exceptions. But in her Mountain Yokai mode, she mocks and scorns her opponents, dropping the polite facade covering her words. Because she's part of the greater Yokai Mountain organization, she usually follows orders from those who hold a higher position. In Mountain of Faith, the Greater Tengu orders her to negotiate with the intruders, and she obeys without complaint, despite it not being her original mission. But she is also very clever and adroit. I never heard that word before. With the mountain so cautious of the Moria Shrine at the time, as soon as Aya found out she was up against Reimu and Marissa, she pulled her punches while fighting, did a lot of pretending, and even showed them the way there. With how she switches between reporter mode and Mountain Yokai mode, and how she always is conscious of where she stands in the pecking order, she might give off a sense that she's irresponsible, but deep down she's actually quite serious. She's also quite old. She always listens to what other persons has to say and always thinks things through. In Phantasmagoria Flower View, she takes her lecture from Eiki almost as seriously as Cirno and actually considers changing her approach to writing articles. When she meets Eiki again, she tells her about her new perspective on her newspaper, to which even Eiki replies that she's close but not quite on the mark. That said, looking at her incisive remarks and Shoot the Bullet in Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red, one can be forgiven for not thinking she's serious about it. Yeah, for real. Aya has lived for over 1,000 years, which seems to make her particularly old even among Gensokyo's yokai population. In perfect memento and strict sense, it's mentioned that when yokai live such a long time, they steadily grow less and less active. But Aya is extremely active compared to all other yokai. Her shocking level of energy comes not from her Tengu background, but from her own unique traits, and her nickname of the Tengu closest to the village expresses that. Perhaps the secret to youth is gossip. You can find more on her work as a reporter in the entry for Boom Boom Modern Newspaper. Incidentally, while she is well known as Gensokyo's fastest, that's a moniker Aya gave to herself. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Aya first appeared near the start of the Scarlet Arc. As a mountain yokai, she became an enemy in the Mystic Arc, but she also told Reimu and the others about where the Moria Shrine was located. She joined up again in the latter part of the Mystic Arc along with Sanai, and from there she remained an ally. Also, save for a few exceptions, she almost always is in a reporter mode. This is simply because she's focusing on her reporting interests, but also because there's more to the image of Aya that the scenario writers have. She has a special effect for when she uses the Spirit Command scan, and that's because even back in Fantasy Maiden Wars Scarlet Trial version, ancient history by now, she was already part of the photography team. It's your good friend Shameimaru. Today I'll be observing a shrine maiden in her natural habitat. So you might have noticed there, chat, that Aya actually did have blue text indicating that I didn't click it, but I had clicked it prior. I had seen her portraits prior, right? So I believe as you advance through the different, through the different arcs, you get more text related to those arcs, because obviously you do. Because otherwise, like, they're not going to tell you what's going on in the Mystic Arc when you've played the game for 5 minutes and see Aya once. Oh, how scary. What a good face. Alright. Music. Flap and frap and flapper.
This was the 5th time, at least, that I've arranged Beloved Tomboyish Girl, and once again was the fastest for me to put out. I guess it's just easy to arrange. I tried to express Fantasy Maidenware's version of Cirno with heroic idiot, cuteness, and coolness literal as the key words. After plenty of hemming and hawing, I settled on this Flappy Flapper name, but I think I could come up with a cooler title nowadays. Frappin' Frapper. Byakuren. Sealed Great Magician. Capable of using magic. Undefined fantastic object. A former human magician who was sealed away in Hokai. Sho, Marasa, and the others trying to save her was the beginning of Undefined Fantastic Object's story, and during the game, Reimu and the others are shown tracking down the Pelican ship as it heads for Hokai. She was the game's Stage 6 boss, the final boss. After that, she established a temple in Gensokyo and began teaching both humans and yokai. Even in the village, she's famous for being a newcomer, and she appears many times afterwards. UFO's character settings, an extra story text file, gives a detailed overview of Byakuren's history. To distill it down, Byakuren was once a regular human, but she had a younger brother named Myoden. I swear to God, every time, I forget that Myoden is her younger brother. I always forget that detail. And every time I read it, I'm like, wait, is that right? No, that's right. That is right. But I always have to double take that. Who was called a legendary monk. Byakuren learned her Buddhist powers from him, but he passed away earlier than her. She was already an old woman at the point, and it was an uncontrollable mourning of her brother's passing came to greatly feared death. It was then that she meddled with yokai arts and sorcery, obtaining the power to make herself young again, but she also feared losing those powers, which led her to begin saving yokai in order to maintain them. So the reason for this, by the way, is because the power behind her sorcery comes directly from, yokai arts. So originally, the reason why she was doing what she was doing was for her own selfish desires. Humans relied on Byakuren for her powerful Buddhist abilities, but she was selfish, secretly saving the yokai she was directly asked to exterminate. During this time, however, she learned of the wretched past of yokai kind, and began to want to save the yokai more sincerely. But when it was discovered that she was saving yokai, she earned just as much disgrace as trust she had gained, and she was sealed away in Makai. This led to the events of Undefined Fantastic Object, where she was rescued by the yokai she once saved. After that, as mentioned above, she established Myoden Temple in Gensokyo and began a new path as a religious individual. The tenets of Byakuren's faith expose equality between humans and yokai. Broadly speaking, it's about philanthropy. She discusses part of her ideals with Kanako and Miko in Symposium of Post-Mysticism. Miko name drop. To describe part of it, Byakuren specifically chooses the yokai who don't desire conflict and the yokai being mistreated, positions them as good yokai, and makes them out to be objects of salvation. She focuses on Buddhist philosophical aspects, explaining that her goal is to raise yokai up so they can maintain their own existence even when forgotten by humans. She believes that if the yokai can learn to maintain their own existence without bringing harm to humans, both humans and yokai will be able to live in peace. She also would prefer to set out rules and limit yokai hunts to only those yokai who have broken them. I don't remember any of that from any text describing Byakuren, but that reads and makes a lot of sense. In her time before being sealed, Byakuren strayed from the straight and proper. However, she regrets this, saying that she now knew firsthand that greed only destroys the powerful, and that now she approaches her Buddhist training with a mind to save others. Her drive to act for the sake of others while acknowledging her past mistakes is more than respectable. It's heroic, even. Even Zun famously said once, very clearly, that she is a good person. Anybody got a source on that? That said, her way of thinking and ideals are not necessarily correct in Gensokyo or in Toho Project. During her debate with Kanako and Miko, she was corrected, and even had biases pointed out to her. She's simply a person of noble character trying to carry through with her own determined convictions. Introduced in this way, Byakuren seems like a very earnest, hard-working person. However, she has a lot of cute sides to her too. You can see her playfulness and how she puts heart markings on flyers. Wait, does she? And her straightforward honesty and how she believes her yokai pupils are actually upholding all of their religious precepts. Most characteristic in battle is her level of physical ability, which is far beyond anything humans could hope to achieve. Its ability is a magical one in essence, But Akyu says that Byakuren could chant a spell to make her fist stronger than steel, sharpen her senses, and reinforce her body enough to easily take a hit from a Hakudo. Superhuman Byakuren Hijiri, the spell card where she flies around the screen at incredible speeds, left such an impact that one could call it representative of undefined fantastic object itself. Yeah, it's her penultimate. It's not even her final. It's between Devil Recitation and fucking Saucers. Now that I think about it, when you look at the final 3 spell cards that Byakuren has, Saucers is probably the weakest in terms of just, like, its awe factor. On the other hand, she only has average physical abilities without her magic, but even then, she has an item that could cover her weaknesses. The Sorcerer's Sutra Scroll, which has a will of its own and can cast magic automatically. Her other magic, meanwhile, does her title of Great Magician Justice. Star Sword Apologetics, a spells card she uses in Double Spoiler, is enough to amaze even the highly critical Aya in Hatate. In addition, there is a real-life work called the Shigi-san Engi, with a deep connection to both Byakuren and the whole of UFO. The picture scrolls depict the tale of the great monk Maiden, and in it, bowls and granaries appear that fly with divine power. Byakuren's original concept is present as well, as Myoden's older sister appears, though she isn't called Byakuren, but Amagimi. I've actually seen this, because I made a video on Toho fan characters, and I did a little bit on Myoden, and I did kind of touch on the Shigi-san Engi, although what information I could find is pretty limited. But that is the source of her inspiration. Most likely because Myoden is, in fact, a well-known monk. The work is one of Japan's national treasures, and its tale is apparently rated as a masterpiece. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Byakuren was implied to already exist by the time of the Mystic arc, but it wasn't until the final arc that she appeared at last. In the final arc, Rainbow's group is on friendly terms with Sho's group, and they help with Hijiri's revival, so they never fought against each other a single time. But if you would seal me away once more, then I will resist with all my might. How angy. She can get pretty angy. Does she really put hearts on her flyers? Is that true? Can somebody confirm that? Can somebody confirm, does she put hearts on her flyers? Damn, she can get really scary. It's not the scary one. That's the scary one. That's the scary one. Alright. Invincibility session. Our 5-girl band's big theme. This starts with Secret Mission, which you've heard mainly during gag scenes. From there it goes Beloved Tomboyish Girl, Moon Insect, Nightbird, Lunar Elf, Apparition, Stalk the Night. Though that last one might be hard to hear. Take the 4 good friends, add Daiyousei's power to the mix, and they become the strongest. This ridiculous combo attack involves more people than any other in the game, so please enjoy it. Alright. Well, I mean, I gotta read Cirno. I know Chen's next, but I gotta read Cirno with this one playing. Come on. Milk break. Fairy of Ice. Capable of manipulating coldness, the embodiment of Scarlet Devil. A fairy living near Misty Lake. An ice fairy who can freeze things and shoot ice danmaku. She both thinks and acts like a child, enjoying pranks and having fun. Giving her all at everything she does. She has a hot-headed personality in contrast to her icy powers. She first appears in Stage 2 of Embodiment of Scarlet Devil, then later in various other works. She's often a playable character. Often? You sure about that? Are you sure about that? But usually in a supporting role where she meant to liven things up. What is your definition of often here, my guy? I mean, yes, she does have Fairy Wars. She is playable in Toho 9. She's playable in Toho 16. She's playable in Fighting Game. Don't you fucking dare put Fighting Games. She is playable in Fighting Game. 12.3 and 12.8. She runs the show! Exceptionally powerful for a fairy, even Akyu, who's known for her harshness towards fairies, writes that she recommends fleeing from her.
Her uniqueness is also recognized by Eiki and Aya, the latter of whom claims the ice lumps she creates are the coldest in history in Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red. She's devoted to finding new ways to have fun, especially with her specialty of freezing things. For example, devising a way to freeze something while leaving water inside, or watching frozen frogs wake up from hibernation. She's obsessed with the strongest and generally likes to show off to others, such as asking Aya to write an article about her. She is especially stupid for a fairy, and her 9 nickname is very famous. Starting with the famous safe spot in Ice Sign Icicle Fall Easy, along with the statement in perfect memento and strict sense that she wouldn't be able to solve even the simplest problems, examples of her dull-wittedness are too numerous to count. That said, she also sometimes displays average intelligence. For example, in Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red, she's able to read and understand a newspaper. But then in the Three Fairies manga, she can't write even basic hiragana. At the very least, no one can object to how she doesn't think before she acts and has poor memory. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, perhaps because she's paired with Daiyousei, the focus is on her positivity and recklessness. Her degree of stupidity depends on the medium, but in Fantasy Maiden Wars, it's established that she's smart enough to write hiragana, but not very many kanji. Hey, me too, Cirno. I have even less kanji. Starting with her appearance at the beginning of the Scarlet Arc, her friendship with fairies and yokai continue to widen. I'm the strongest. Portraits. Ya babu babu bamboo. Good. Mini portrait. Alright. Hold fast, Maiden of the Continent. Mei Ling's theme song. In line with her fighting spirit, the arrangement is colored by gallant brass sounds. I feel like it's suitable sound for the brave hero who stood up to the great evil that appears during the events of Hiso Tensoku's story mode. By the way, if you look up the kanji for the song's name, they're pronounced Chunfa Xiaonyan. Thanks. I'm not gonna do that, but I'll take your word for it. Jen! Black cat of ill omen, capable of using black magic. Debut, perfect cherry blossom. A Bakeneko living on Yokai Mountain and Shikigami employed by Ran Yakumo. While she's perfectly ordinary Bakeneko in that state, when possessed by the Shikigami, she gains the ability to use yokai magic. Chen first appeared as the stage 2 boss of Perfect Cherry Blossom. In the game, players bumped into her as an ordinary yokai, then simply exterminated her and moved on. Later, in the extra stage, she stands before them again as a mid-boss working for Ran. Unlike Ran, whose character traits are inseparable from the Shikigami, we can see a distinct difference between when Chen is possessed by the Shikigami and when she isn't. In fact, in Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red, we get to see the Bakeneko side of her trying to win over the other cats. However, since neither her appearance nor personality change, there aren't many superficial differences. Because of her weaknesses to water and catnip, her failures at winning over the cats, and the fact that she hasn't been given the Yakumo name, she comes across as a low-status character. One could say this is done to further emphasize Ran and Yukari's high status. I'm gonna be honest with you, chat. I know that in her description and whatnot, they do say, like, Chen is a Bakeneko, but then when she's controlled by the Shikigami, she gains powers. I have never, ever considered those two Chens to be, like, separate things. Does that make sense? Like, to me, Chen is Chen. There's no possession. It's just, that's just Chen. Same with Ran. That's just Chen and Ran. I don't think too hard about the Shiki stuff. She's just Chen. Chen often gives straightforward and honest opinions about her master Ran, such as in Bohemian Archive of Japanese Red, where she simply says, "Miss Ran is strong." At the same time, Ran's behavior shows she cares for Chen, giving a sense of their bond as master and servant. While this might give one the impression that she lives with Yukari and Ran, she actually doesn't. She lives in the village on Yokai Mountain, where the players ran into her in Stage 2. Chen calls this place Mayohiga, but the title of the stage is Black Cat of Mayohiga. Wait, is that a... Huh? Also revealed in Bohemian Archive of Japanese Red is that Chen frequently visits a cat colony that's settled in a deserted village. While it's uncertain if this cat colony and Mayohiga is the same place, Chen does call say our village, so it is highly likely. Incidentally, Mayohiga exists in actual folklore, made famous in Kunio Yanigata's Tono Monogatari. While Chen says nobody who strays into it will ever return, the Mayohiga of folklore has no such feature. Given that the player manages to leave with no trouble, Chen probably made that up on the spot. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, she first appeared in the Mystic arc, where she showed up in more or less every scene with Ran. Her unconcealed respect for Ran is dazzling. In the Eternity arc, she joined the group as a member of the Yakumo household. While she mostly does things with Ran, she's also friends with Cirno's group, possibly because they speak on her level. It's been a long time since we met, but your luck's run out. Today I'm freshly possessed. Bum ba dum bum. Kitty cat. Kitty cat. Oh shit. That's pretty good actually. See that? What the? Give me that one again. Oh yeah. I like that her pupils actually went inwards as well to more cat's eye. That's really good. Good touch. This is an emergency. I'm out of milk. Alright. With a devilishly innocent heart. The theme of the girl who first appeared in the Scarlet Arc as an enemy, but you just can't dislike her. Koakuma. I created this piece with the image of her desperately spraying those bubble bullets to protect Lady Patchouli, combining fast-paced violins and a classy piano. Like Daiyousei, she originally had no dialogue, so she's basically an OC. She has a loyal fan base though, so I took great care while working on this. You just can't hate her. Daiyousei. Title, none. Ability, none. Debut, embodiment of Scarlet Devil. A fairy living near Misty Lake. Daiyousei is a general term for powerful fairies, so it's not her real name. She appears in both Embodiment of Scarlet Devil and Great Fairy Wars, but isn't even given a name, let alone a portrait or spell cards. Because of this, Derivative Works gave her the aforementioned nickname and basically her entire character. I believe the nickname stems from her name in the code, right? Isn't it that their names, Daiyousei and Koakuma, Big Fairy and Little Devil, it's because in the code they're referred to as that, and that's why they're referred to as that. But they also do, you know, if you looked at Dai and like Daiyousei, like sure, whatever. Daiyousei, Big Fairy. There are plenty of other fairies about as powerful as her, and it's unclear if she has power over anything in particular. Also, while her personality is said to be like other fairies, cheerful and mischievous, it's often paired with Cirno in Derivative Works and written as mature and reasonable in contrast to Cirno's recklessness. Speaking of which, it's also unclear what her relationship with Cirno is, other than debuting in the same stage. While it was thought that this would never be revealed, in the manga Strange and Bright-Natured Deity, a fairy resembling her is seen playing hide-and-seek with Cirno. So, at the very least, they seem to be friends. Also, when she appeared as a mid-boss in Great Fairy Wars, mercilessly raining down Danmaku, fans were excited in more ways than one. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Daiyousei first appeared in the Scarlet Arc. She had an upstanding and responsible personality often seen in Derivative Works. She's good friends with Cirno and always watches over the rambunctious fairy. In return, Cirno's innocence and openness cheers her up. In a sense, having more upstanding and proper characters lent more emotional weight to all the incidents. She's great! She's a hero! She was on the bench for most of the game! That's because I used her pretty much the entirety of my first playthrough. The Witch of Apricia Metrosil. What kind of fucking name is that? Patchouli's theme song. The name of the song is derived from Agni, Princess, Sylph, Rage, Metal, Royal, and Silent. Put them together and you get the 1 Week Girl. Apricia Metrosil. Bro, that's fucked up. That's fucking dumb. Well done. In game, she has long-range attacker that relies on hit and away. If you use her right, she's both cost-effective and reliable. Eiki. Supreme Judge of Paradise, capable of distinctly judging anything to be good or evil. Phantasmagoria Flavio. One of the Yamas presiding over Gensokyo. In Phantasmagoria Flower View, she visited Gensokyo during the flower incident. She was the last one to confront the players, though she isn't the incident's mastermind because it was closer to a natural phenomenon. She has few appearances after that, perhaps because her duties as a Yama keeps her days busy. However, she does seem to pay a visit to Gensokyo on her days off to exhort the values of a good life. Eiki's name is Eiki Shiki, while Yama Xanadu is one Yama role among many. According to POV's character setting text file, the title originates in Sanskrit, where Yama is equivalent to the Japanese Enma, and Xanadu means utopia. It's thought Xanadu in this case refers to Gensokyo. So in other words, Yama Xanadu means that she's the Enma of utopia, and Gensokyo is considered a paradise, because she's the judge presiding over paradise. Neat. In other words, she is Gensokyo's Yama, and one could say that her title, the Judge of Paradise, refers directly to this. Well, there you go. The judgment of the Yamas in Touhou Project are regulated by the Ministry of Right and Wrong, and the trials themselves are carried out by a single judge. According to Akyu, they do so unilaterally. She suggests in perfect mental and strict sense that they don't listen to the dead's viewpoint, instead deciding for themselves what judgments to pass down, sending them either to netherworld, heaven, or hell. In addition, there are simply too many dead souls. They conduct trials almost like an assembly line, each one ending extremely simply. That, however, doesn't mean the trials are half-hearted. The character setting text file explains that the standards for good and evil are extremely complex, and that everything from the structure and the origin of events to the personal histories of everyone involved affects how serious the crimes are. It is also made clear that the Yamas work on a 2-shift system, so during their off time, they're allowed to do as they please. However, Eiki seems to like visiting Gensokyo and lecturing those burdened with sin. At first, she comes off as zealous about her job, but at work, she never gets the chance to ask the dead for their perspectives or encourage them to reform themselves. Essentially, she is transcending her own position to offer advice to humans and yokai alike. From that point of view, she is extremely kind and a welcome person to have around. Since she is the Yama who wields absolute authority when judging the dead, her methods draw a clear line them and other a clear line them and other humans and yokai. That's a sentence. POV simply says she has her own internal standards for determining good and evil, but in the same game, Raisin says the Yama isn't just on a different wavelength, she's on a different phase altogether, one that will never interfere with living creatures on the surface. From that, you can say that Eiki has absolute decision-making authority over good and evil. With all of that, she holds an extremely powerful position relative to Gensokyo's humans and yokai. However, she never acts like she's better than she is. All she does is lecture people. That attitude is probably why what she says is quite harsh, but never meant to be mean. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Eiki first appeared in the final arc. Her existence was touched on when Komachi joined, and because the Shinigami mentioned conversations to others about her boss, they perceived her as that harsh boss we heard about. Also, due to her backstory saying she frequently visits Gensokyo, many other characters were either familiar with her or at least knew about her. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, she's always aloof and never does anything to ruin her position. While she accompanies the group on incident resolution, she doesn't sense any danger to herself from them. Instead, it seems she may be trying to take the measure of Reimu's group, as well as that of the Mastermind. Never once has she vacillated in her duties. I don't know what the word vacillated means, but I assume it means something similar to ignoring. Laws are contracts determined by humans. What crimes the law cannot punish, I shall. It's a pretty raw line, actually. That's a pretty raw line. I'll give you that. Oh. Whoa, spooky. Oh, shit. I don't think I've ever seen her make an angry face like that. Distortion Dial. Sakuya's theme song. The song has a dark and thorny feel, befitting EOSD Sakuya, who is a bit of a Sun. By the way, Distortion Dial is a reference to Dali melting clock paintings, representing the feeling of a time slip. It's also derived from distortion, which is an effect commonly applied to rock guitars. This track used a pretty old sound generator, but maybe it's for the better. Sun. Eirin. Brain of the moon, capable of making any kind of medicine. Imperishable night. Look at that scroll bar. Alright, get ready. Kaguya's attendant, living at Ayante. In Imperishable Night, she was the one who hid the real moon, and therefore the mastermind who the players wanted to defeat to resolve the incident. According the character settings text file, she is a genius whose intellect far surpasses a human's. In her first appearance, she looks down on both the humans and yokai of Earth. Appearing many times in works such as IN, as well as Silent Center in Blue and its related works, Eiden's extremely eventful history has been brought into clear focus. Formerly a kind teacher to Kaguya in the lunar capital, she used Kaguya's power to create the Hodai elixir. After drinking it, Kaguya was exiled from the moon. Later, after Kaguya's sins were officially forgiven, she joined the lunar emissaries sent to escort her back. but then betrayed and killed them all. Since then, she and Kaguya have been fugitives. As someone who's killed her own comrades, she's done far worse than race him. Eirin's personal history prior to becoming Kaguya's teacher is incredible in a different way. When the lunar capital's founder, Tsukiyomi, moved from Earth to the Moon, the one she relied on most was reportedly Eirin, who was actually even older than her. And in IN, she says she has fond memories of an age in which there were no humans. The extent of her power is without limit, and makes her one of the preeminent characters appearing in all of Toho Project. If you don't like humans so much, why the fuck do you look like one? Bitch. According to the character settings test file, her strength is, in truth, more overwhelming than Kaguya's, but she's always keeps some of it in reserve so she's never stronger than her. Given her background, this actually seems sensible more than strange. Kaguya regrets having imbibed the Hodai elixir, and because of that, Eirin became her attendant. Eirin herself also drank it, though it's not known exactly when she did so. She is generally respectful when speaking to Kaguya, calling her princess, but sometimes she simply calls her Kaguya and acts more informally around her. This, combined with her former role as her instructor, shows a subtlety that goes beyond a simple master-attendant relationship. After the incident in IN, Eirin became a pharmacist. People value her to the point of recommending Ayante for illnesses the village doctors can't cure, and all this with a mere few years since undoing the spell on the mansion. Akyu goes into detail in perfect memento and strict sense. Not only are her medicines highly effective, her fees are extremely conscionable, and she's apparently very kind when giving diagnosis. Akyu suspects ulterior motives behind her kindness, saying that there's nothing more expensive than something given for free. But readers who know Eirin's background would easily see that she isn't attached to money. In fact, the way she works so hard day in and day out to blend in with the others on Earth is heartwarming. Who wrote this? Who wrote this? In fact, whenever Eirin is mentioned in print works, it's mainly because of her pharmacy work, such as in Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red, when she announces a new medicine called Butterfly Dream Pills. In the Grimoire Marissa, the magician says Eirin almost never takes part in battles, so she must be sticking quietly to her pharmacist business and not taking center stage very much. The way she tries to master a practical job geared to her talent seems befitting of Eirin's history and personality. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Eirin's first appearance is in the Eternity arc. The story pushed the arrival of the lunar emissaries to the forefront to build suspense, so in the Imperishable Night part of the story, she was notably desperate. Fantasy Maiden Wars' circumstances aren't a whole lot different from the original works, but she did seem to act more composed and confident with those of Earth and an Imperishable Night. Maybe this is an easy-to-see example of how Fantasy Maiden Wars creates its own unique feel. Although she stayed behind on Earth during the Silent Thunder and Blue storyline, she was still depicted as a major character who went through a change in attitude and a hardening of determination. Come, the dawn of a new Gensokyo is at hand. So, it's the interesting bit about the comment about Akyu, how Akyu sees suspicion that she's not charging, Eirin's background. If you know her background, then you know she isn't attached to money. The thing is, the reason why Eirin doesn't do it for free, Eirin doesn't do it for free. She doesn't do it for free, but she only charges you medicine. Like, she sells medicine boxes to the villagers, and she'll only charge you medicine, charge you for the medicine you use. And the reason why she charges money is not because they need it, but because it would look suspicious if they didn't do that. So she deliberately charges because it makes her, I guess, her, not purpose, but her part in the community of Gensokyo is more natural when she runs a service that does actually engage in profit. Because I believe it's in her words in Runegate, but because her group is neither human nor yokai, they are outsiders in the truest form. So if they're alienated from both, then they are alone. So Eirin does her best to basically not mediate between them, but she just tries to coexist with them without doing anything that would piss them off. She's smart. She is smart. That's her whole fucking character, so I would assume she'd be smart about something like this. But yes, she doesn't do it for free, but she does do things. She does do things with a plan. I like how sometimes her eyes turn blue. I still don't like her very much. Crumbling silver knife. The theme of Sakuya blinded by rage and on a rampage. An intense track reminiscent of Metal. I guess she's done keeping up appearances. Maybe this advice is a little basic, but even if she can't see straight, Sakuya might be overpowering you. If so, I'd recommend paying attention to her weapon range. Setting elegance aside for a moment, the sequence is pretty moving to watch, even as just a promise of developments to come. I agree. I really like how Sakuya pops up in the last stage and she's like, hey, check out this move, and she just slashes the shit out of you. Because it is a very desperate attack. It is a very desperate attack, and one that she's only doing because she's been pushed to the brink and she's not giving up. It does kind of crack her facade a little bit. It breaks her composure. Great music, too. Elly! No title, no ability. Lotus Land story. The Gatekeeper of Mugenkan. Her debut work, Lotus Land Story, was the 4th entry in the Toho project, and one of the so-called old games. She protects the gates to Mugenkan, where she once confronted Reimu and Marissa with her Danmaku blocking sight. Yeah, that shit is annoying, by the way. That shit is annoying. She comments in Lotus Land Story that she fought Marissa before fighting Reimu. This is one of the rare depictions of both the player characters acting in tandem. That's because the player character faces off against the other player character in Stage 4. Her external appearance is stated to be modeled after Anko, a Shinigami from the Breton region of France. Anko has appeared in other games, such as ones based on myth and legends, so there may be readers familiar with him. First time hearing of this, by the way. He's famous for his wide-brimmed hat and reverse blade scythe, which are thought to be the motifs behind Elly's fashion choice. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, unlike her original game, Elly's first appeared against Sokyo after leaving Mugenkan in pursuit of Yuka. Much of her personality is based on original ideas from the Sanbondo staff. She approaches everything awfully vigorously, which tends to get her nowhere, and she loves her master Yuka. She also has an oddly sociable side to her. A little friendship is all it takes for her to start giving people nicknames. She was freeloading at Scarlet Devil Mansion in the Scarlet Arc, so she's friends with the people there. In the Mystic Arc, she joined in to resolve an incident, showing her lively nature. She continued to be an ally in the Eternity Arc, where she finally set down on the lands of the moon itself. I can't help it, I can't! It's been so long since I last fought anyone! Music Room. The elegant flower that blooms at night. The theme of the new Sakuya, as an elegant human. Post-Scarlet Arc, she's become a much more relaxed character. I arranged this track imagining her swiftly and perfectly executing her duties with a nonchalant expression, as opposed to the more demonic feel she had during the Scarlet Mist incident. By the way, the original song name, Flowering Night, is derived from the characters in Sakuya's name. Now that's stylish. That I did know. That I actually did know. And this is her most popular theme for sure. But I am a fan of Luna Dial more. Alright. Fairies of Light. All three of them? Oh, I forgot Elly's expressions. Ba-na, ba-na. Doot, 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 doot. Doot, 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 doot. Doot, 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 doot. Doot, 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 doot. Fairies of Light. Sunny Milk. The three-person team made up of Sunny, Luna, and Star. Official sources all call them the Three Fairies of Light. In Japan, they're sometimes also referred to as the Sengetsusei, or Three Moon Spirits, from the name of the manga they appear in. This is the form, or rather formation, when the three come together and combine. They had Fantasy Maiden War's first ever combination attack back in the Scarlet Arc, while in the Mystic Arc they became the first combining units. It really shows how accustomed they are to working as a team. It's all sunny. It's all sunny. So this is just for the three of them. They have their individual ones further in. Flan. The emblazoned in a eternally young Scarlet. The theme of Vermilia, mistress of the Scarlet Devil Mansion. This arrangement incorporates the charisma and elegance of a vampire. Any piece that begins with a timpani roll is grand, isn't it? Like, welcome to the orchestra. That's the vibe I get. I'm so happy to hear how many people rate this as their favorite track in Fantasy Maiden Wars, even though I produced it so long ago. I guess you can trust in the Scarlet Devil brand. You tend to hear this on longer stages, so settle in and enjoy the ride. Flan. Title, The Devil's Sister. Capable of destroying anything and everything. Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. A vampire residing in the Scarlet Devil Mansion, Vermilia's roughly 495-year-old younger sister. Since Vermilia is over 500 years old, she's at minimum 5 years younger. As of embodiment of Scarlet Devil, she is half confined in the mansion's basement to the point where she didn't know what a living human was. The extra text file describes her as a little crazy, And in the game itself, she acts childishly, speaking in a faltering, awkward way. However, perhaps because she started leaving the basement after the extra stage, a few years later in Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red, she's rather well put together. It's not clear how long she was in the basement, or why she was there in the first place. Well, we know that now. She herself says she's been resting in the basement for 495 years, but it's unclear why a newborn child would be immediately confined. And since she said this in EOSD, it's hard to take it at face value. Despite her confinement, she never particularly wanted to leave, but after hearing Rainbow Marissa's voice during the Scarlet Mist incident, she became interested in humans and tried to get out. That's how EOSD's extra stage begins. Her ability is to destroy anything and anything. Her ability is to destroy anything, and the details are discussed in Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red. Specifically, all materials have an eye, which is part under the most strain, and applying force there will always destroy it. Flan can move that eye into her hand. Her right hand, apparently. Then, when she applies force to that eye, the object it originates from breaks. To an observer, it looks like Flan squeezes her right hand and the target is destroyed. Breaking certain kinds of objects in one hit is a common motif in fiction and easily imagined by the readers. As it's very powerful, there is usually some kind of restriction on it, but Flan's ability doesn't appear to have one. Any range limits are unclear, but as she once shot down a meteorite, supposedly, headed towards the mansion, the range is quite far. And she clearly had no problem hitting a fast-moving object either. Furthermore, while easy to forget, she also possesses the title of Magical Girl. Whereas Remy's Danmaku gives a strong impression of blood, very vampiric, Flan's Danmaku is mysterious in a way it's hard to call vampiric, which might be the difference between them. While Flandre may not have wanted to escape her special confinement in EOSD, in Fantasy Maiden Wars she actively wanted to leave, and the reason for her confinement in the first place was an original setting. She wasn't permitted to leave the mansion throughout the Mystic arc, but after making it with Remy in the Eternity arc, she finally got out. In the time between the Eternity arc and the final one, she gradually grew accustomed to the outside world. I meant you can't use a continue. That's her. The goo creature. Angie. All smiles. All smiles. Rage. Unbalanced Unknown. Flan's theme from before her true identity is clear. It uses the same musical phrases as the original, but I think I've emphasized the eeriness and instability. I use the music I hear when I'm sick and dreaming as a reference. That's crazy. Giant Catfish. A catfish that appeared in Toho Hiso Tensoku as the boss of Mei Ling's story. He called himself one of the shadows of the Taisui Xingjun and did battle with Mei Ling with Gensokyo's peace at stake, but it was all just part of a dream she was having. It was a classic just a dream ending, but the catfish certainly made a big impression and created many highlights. He talks like a middle-aged man might, and since he looks like a giant catfish, he comes across as a comic relief character. However, as a servant of an extremely high-ranking curse god, he would like to have been considered a great yokai if he were real. Since he appeared in Mei Ling's dream, we can tell that she has plenty of knowledge regarding China, where she comes from. Incidentally, during Toho Hiso Tensoku, there was a talk of a giant catfish in service to the Celestials, but it's unrelated to Taisui Xingjun. Perhaps the motif of catfish being bearers of disaster informed both of them. Finally, in Toho Hiso Tensoku, he gets cooked up by Sakuya. The connection there is unknown as well. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, the giant catfish was a yokai created by Makota's power over dreams. While he had an independent will, he was ultimately only propped up by Makota's thoughts, so his personality and dialogue were heavily original to this game. I am the great, legendary, the illustrious giant catfish. When I move, the land shakes and the earth crumbles. The likes of you shall not even scratch me. Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho. Frantic Destroyer. Flan's theme song. Rather than a solemn moment, this feels more like an incarnation of carnage and madness. The part in the middle where you hear Flan giggling is accompanied by Remilia's theme song played in reverse. Oh, no shit! I imagine Flan bottling up all her feelings that run counter to Remilia's, then crash. She shatters them and goes on a rampage. Okay, when she starts giggling, I'm gonna have to listen. That's Remilia's theme in reverse, huh? Okay, I'll listen to that. Goki.
a Shinigami belonging to Yukari. For more on Shikigami, see it in separate entry. Like Zenki, Goki appeared in the form of a crow, according to Silent Center and Blue's story. Its main weapon is water pressure cannon. It fires a stream of high-pressure water from a vessel inside its body. In the Eternity arc, Ran received Shikigami protection of Zenki and Goki, which allowed her to use the Shikigami as well. Did anybody actually use these guys? Alright, listen. Listen. It's in the background. I don't really hear it because I can't really piece it together. But you can obviously hear Flandre's theme and Flandre's laughing. But the accompanying melody definitely sounds like it's in reverse. That's a really nice detail. Alright, the psychotic and cute guest. Flandre's theme, now that she can finally go outside. Cleaving through everything with Levitain like a god of destruction. Now let her run rampant across the outside world. She's a little weak defensively, but her incredible firepower should more than make up for it. Vermilia is a shoo-in, of course, but Mei Ling may also make a good partner for her. Yep, very true. Hatate. Modern-day thoughtography reporter, capable of doing thoughtography. Double spoiler. A Crow Tengu and newspaper reporter like Aya. She publishes a newspaper called the Kakashi Spirit News. While she had been writing articles without interviewing people using her thoughtography power, she picked up an interest in Aya's articles and decided to get mixed up in her business. In the Omake text file, her thoughtography is explained as a power that lets her find photographs based on keywords she puts into her camera. Taken at face value, this appears to imply her camera is a necessary part of her ability, and also that she needs to put keywords into it. It seems like she can just will the keywords into the camera, but the specifics have never been described and will probably never be. Innate Google search. Because of how Hatate's ability works, it had problems with the speed and freshness of information, so it seems the Kakashi Spirit News wasn't very popular. That said, her power gives her many advantages, including the ability to ignore distance and to capture things invisible to the naked eye, so it's far from useless. The latter was mentioned in Symposium of Post-Mysticism, where it was said Hatate could use thoughtography to see through Nue's unknown form, or identity. In addition, her camera was made by the Kappa and it's completely waterproof. It seems to have several different photography modes, but she hasn't figured out how to use all of them very well. Probably because she sticks to thoughtography and nothing else. It looks like a cell phone, and the shape of the photographs it takes resemble a cell phone's camera. Nevertheless, it doesn't seem to function as a cell phone, so it's probably best viewed as a camera that just happens to be shaped like one. As mentioned before, it seems she didn't do much interviewing or research, but she's sincere when it comes to her newspaper. This is shown in how she felt a strange sense of allure from Aya's articles and tried to pursue something like them for herself. When she actually met Aya, she provoked her, saying her newspaper had the best photo subjects but the worst articles. They then had a heated debate over how newspapers are supposed to be, but they don't actually hate each other. Even in their comments, you can see them praising each other on their stance and abilities. Aya's places emphasis on photographs and events themselves, while Hatate has a particular dedication to the article's text. There's no one answer on which is more important for a newspaper to have. While Hatate has never gone out to gather information or conduct interviews, it's not clear if that means she also lived the rest of her personal life as a shut-in. When she tries to think of something fun, she thinks of feasts, so she seems to enjoy them at least. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Hatate first appeared in the Eternity arc. She would hold up on the Yokai Mountain up through the Mystic arc, but finally decided to come out and accompany Rainbow's group. When development on Fantasy Maiden Wars first began, there was no plan for Hatate to appear, but she just barely managed to slide in, a background almost nobody else in the game shares. We'll aim for the top spot as rival newspapers. So, you can actually see that in the game. So, cause like what happens is, Hatate kind of shows up near the beginning of the third arc, and is like, hello. And some characters are like, oh, hello, I know you. And other people are like, who's she? It's like, oh, that's Hatate, you know, she's like a Tengu. Anyway, you want to come with? And she's like, sure. And there you go. And that's how Hatate became a character. Letty the Cool Lady. Letty's theme song. Letty appears to be quite the cool and beautiful lady when she first shows up, hence the title. I've experimented with drums and a timbre I've rarely used before, hoping they combine well with the scenario and backgrounds to create the desired effect. Hina. Hidden god Nagashi Mina, capable of gathering human misfortune, Mountain of Faith. A curse god living on Yokai Mountain. Her job is to collect the curse humans ward off and keep watch over them to make sure they don't return. She appeared in Stage 2 of Mountain of Faith when she attempted to send Reimu and Marissa away from the dangers of Yokai Mountain, but got attacked by them instead. She is a curse god, and her title plus Hatate's remarks and double spoiler reveal that she used to be a Nagashi Hina doll before attaining divinity. In Symposium of Post-Mysticism, she's also described as not a normal god, but a type of yokai, a bringer of bad luck. Some people call her a pestilence god, like Shion. Around Hina are so many curses that even a layman would be able to tell. According to Akyu, curses are thoughts given form that bring unhappiness and misfortune to humans. They don't affect Hina, but they make other yokai unlucky when they get near. While there are no concrete instances of this, Akyu mentions injuries, diseases, financial ruin, and separation, so they are extremely dangerous. Also, Aya drew a poor fortune omikuji after interviewing Hina. Given her role, she does work that benefits humans, and she's actually called herself an ally to them. The only reason she fought the protagonists of Mountain of Faith was to warn them away, and when they refused to leave, she didn't flinch, offering to take their curses from them. Even after they beat her, she worried about the dangers they were venturing into. Since approaching her brings misfortune, it's difficult to say that other yokai like her. And double spoiler, Aya and Hatate certainly have their way with the things they write about her. Then again, they always write whatever they want in their notes, and both assertive, at the least, with their interviews, so maybe Hina isn't actually disliked all that much. She has even shown up among many other humans and yokai during parties at the Scarlet Temple Mansion. On the other hand, in Symposium of Post-Mysticism, Akyu is harsh on her as well, stating that the rules are to pretend you don't see her and never to walk on the same path as her, otherwise you'll be cursed. If this is true and applies to everyone, human and yokai alike, then she'll probably never fit in with the rest of society. In the same book, though, her character is described in a positive light after actually talking to her. She's friendly and outgoing. In derivative work, she's frequently shown as having a deep connection with Nitori, with Hina's modesty and aggressive distancing from other humans and yokai, and Nitori's strong-willed attitude. They form a wonderfully contrasting pair. In the original game, many remember her for spinning around as she moves left and right, and it's been stated that this is an expression of the fact that she is a doll. You can also sometimes see her drifting down a river, given her past as a Nagashi Hina. In Mountain of Faith's character setting text file, she's described as the head of military force of tragic Nagashi Hina dolls, but said force never appears in the original work. She sold Hina dolls in the human village for free in the past. Even in Fantasy Maiden Wars, she's beaten when trying to ward off Reimu and the others. She has a good relationship with Nitori, which is influenced by derivative works. Nitori usually half drags her into all the incidents she ends up wrapped up in. Hina always stands a step behind, but she's the human's best interest at heart, so she has a strong desire to investigate these incidents. Humans can live in peace because I exist on the other side of curses. That's Hina. Whoa, she spins. Cool lady. Folly Days. Letty's second theme song. Returning from her long absence, I created this uplifting arrangement to suit the occasion. Of course, my fondness for the original track Deep Mountain played a role, but I also wanted to capture the melodic way PCB uses the flute in stages 1 and 2. Since it's the character's second theme, I tried to stick the same vibes as the first. It's like how when one anime's OP and ending have the same artist, they kind of feel the same, you know? Along those lines, I wanted a tune with a softer touch on the first one. The song's title, The Day the Snow Melts, adds to this effect. Hiso Tensoku. Question mark? Hiso Tensoku, given form by the power of dreams, created by Makuda and setting in this game are all Sanbondo original. Its main source, however, is the ad balloon that appears during Toho Hiso Tensoku, and it can't be discussed without mentioning the thermonuclear titan Hiso Tensoku on the game's soundtrack, so we weren't quite sure how to write its entry. During Toho Hiso Tensoku, it was created to advertise the Kappa's Bazaar, and it was essentially an ad balloon, hollow on the inside and moving via steam sent into it. Apparently it was Suiko's plan. That way it wouldn't become a Tsukumogami. That said, seeing its giant form left a huge impression on others and kicked off Toho Hiso Tensoku's story. Then there's the thermonuclear titan Hiso Tensoku from the game's soundtrack. The title resembles Super Robot anime of yesteryear, and a few songs on the OST are very Super Robot as well, such as Bokura no Hiso Tensoku. Even the packaging was packed with fun little details.
As for its fantasy Maiden War setting, it was created from Makuta to further her scheme. It's built to be the symbol of technology and hope, but should use it to show people Hisotensaku-shaped nightmares. Hisotensaku's image was always brimming with hope, and when Satori and Sanai called out to it, it responded. With hopes and wishes, now filled with a nightmare's body, it was reborn as a Tsukumogami. Because it was created by dreams, it can't exit into the outside world. At the end, it saved its creator, Makuta, and disappeared. Its heart, however, remained in the dreamscape. In the special arc, Makuta once again gave it a body, after which it reunited with Nitori and the others. He's got one portrait, but he only needs one portrait. He's the man. He's the man. Orange Fancy. Chen's theme song. I aim for an 80s to 90s mecha anime feel. I hope you'll find it nostalgic. Chen's name means orange, and the song's title conveys her whimsy. I've always heard cats can be fickle, but in this game, Chen is more honest and straightforward. We love Chen! Horai. The name of one of Alice's dolls. There is no instance in Toho Project where Alice calls this doll by name, so it's not even certain if a doll with the name Horai exists at all. Oh. Okay. Well. Beloved handmade dolls. Oh my god, I should have played this theme. The theme for Alice's puppets, who hadn't originally planned on making a theme for them, but they feature prominently in a lot of fan work, so I threw this together in a hurry. Rather than combat music, this song is more based on Alice meticulously crafting her dolls one by one. As a side note, this game is very thorough with its battle dialogue. I was surprised that even niche scenarios like Alice support defending Horai has special dialogue. What? I think it's fascinating when games put so much detail into the nitty-gritty. What about you all? I agree, but what the you telling me Alice has unique support defend dialogue for Horai? If she jumps in the way of Horai, you have to give her support defend for that. What the fuck, dude? What are you even bothering with that at that point? Ichirin. The Great Wheel, having guarded and been guarded, capable of handling a Nyudu, undefined fantastic object. A yokai who, like Murasa, followed Byakuren and was sealed away in the underworld with the Palanquin ship. In Stage 3 of Undefined Fantastic Object, she encounters the player while voluntarily patrolling the area near the ship. Ichirin's personality is described by UFO's character setting text file as honest, hardworking, tactful, and clever. Symposium of Post-Mysticism also mentions that she can be courageous sometimes as well. While her backstory was mostly unknown at the time of UFO's release, Symposium of Post-Mysticism elucidates Ichirin's checkered past. According to the brief history given, she was born not a yokai, but a human. One day, she set out to slay Unzan, who had been eating people in a rampage, and defeated him with Ablam. Unzan capitulated, these are words, out of pure admiration and decided to serve Ichirin after the battle. That was how Ichirin and Unzan came to be together. After that, Ichirin lived like a whirlwind, drama-filled life until at some point she found herself feared by humans and befriended by yokai. Thus did she become a devout believer in Byakuren, who both accepted the yokai and understood the human heart. Her ability is that she can use a Nyudu, but given the previous explanation how she and Unzan became friends, the question remains on whether she can actually control Nyudu other than him. In addition, Unzan doesn't seem bound to her by absolute command. Ichirin is instead depicted as using her natural tact and wit to cleverly control the stubborn Nyudu. She started out as human, but chose a path of friendship with yokai, a history which shares similarities with Byakuren's, making it easy to see why she respectively calls her ma'am or chief. While Ichirin is certainly a level-headed individual, on certain routes and undefined fantastic objects, she will trust and gladly welcome Reimu, Marissa, and Sanai as comrades, even though they're trying to pick a fight with her, purely because they have pieces of the flying granary with them. Symposium of Post-Mysticism also mentions that she apparently has parties without Byakuren's knowledge. It seems Ichirin hasn't entirely broken away from her secular life. After the incident in UFO, she begins using Myoden Temple as her main base. A double spoiler, there are apparently human children talking about her and sharing rumors. Thus, she seems to be somewhat close to the human village, at least. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Ichirin revived along with the Palanquin ship in the end of the Mystic Arc. After that, she formed friendly relationships with the denizens against Sokyo. With the ship's autopilot function not functioning, she serves as part of the bridge crew. My, that's wonderful. I had no idea humans like you still existed. So,
I'll be real, UFO Ichirin's design is pretty bad. Her fighting game glow up is very good though. But I think her UFO design is very not great. She's also not a very interesting character, which is a shame. Dancing Doll. Alice's theme song. I liked how the original interwove so many different melodies, so I tried my hand at it, but it was really hard to balance. Regardless, it's fun to imagine Alice dominating the battlefield with this tune, so I am fine with it. By the way, bosses move before normal enemies in this game, so I recommend making a doll at the end of your turn to bait their attacks. Getting your healer shot down sucks, right? If you feel the same, give it a try. I don't think I ever noticed that about this game. Iku! Beautiful scarlet raiment, capable of reading the atmosphere. Scarlet Weather Rhapsody. A yokai who lives in the Sea of Clouds. Her main job is to convey the words of the Dragon God. In Scarlet Weather Rhapsody, she notices the scarlet clouds Tenchi created, foresees an earthquake, and goes to the surface. Members of her race almost never appear on the surface, but she has been seen visiting several times after her debut. With her connection to heaven and the way she's referred to as linked to celestial maidens, people tend to think Iku is actually from heaven. However, she's actually a respectable servant of the Dragon Palace. Servants of the Dragon Palace are said to dwell between the world of dragons and the world of man, and their job is to understand the dragon's words and impart their meaning to humans and yokai. Symposium of Post-Mysticism describes her raiment as something provided to her by the Heavenly Emperor. It also says that she was ordered to fulfill her role by someone, the Heavenly Emperor, and that there are several others who have similar raiments. The article itself talks about spouse hunting veils, a tradition among other celestial maidens that seems to be at odds with the setting that celestials almost never appear on the surface. The text in the bonus text file could also be taken to be mixing it up with the envoys of the Dragon Palace, which are actual fish, and that can be given some insight at how much of it is true. Iku has an easygoing personality and a calm demeanor. She always keeps a level-headed attitude no matter what, which in a way shows that she very much goes at her own pace. The bonus text file also mentions that she isn't interested in what others are doing and tends to find things troublesome. During the Scarlet Weather Rhapsody, she went around by her own decision announcing that an earthquake was coming, causing others in many places to view her with confusion and suspicion. Calling this attitude businesslike would be fitting. She kept her emotions so well in check, in fact, that some mistook her for the one causing the earthquakes to begin with. Nevertheless, she's not simply a hard-boiled character. Her genial personality comes through in scenes unrelated to her work and in subtler conversations. One particular scene symbolic of Iku's personality comes after winning against Cirno, where despite seeing the fairy's temperament, she views her with extreme warmth. Her ability is to read the mood, but in the afterword to Symposium of Post-Mysticism, Zun explains that it means that she can swim in the air. Mood, in this case, can also be read literally as air or atmosphere, so it's as if she can read the air currents. Because the bonus text file states after the ability's name that she can immediately grasp the specific characteristics of a place and easily integrate herself with them, some speculate or interpret this as not an ability per se, but a facet of her personality, or perhaps the reason she can predict disasters before they happen and inform everyone. As stated before, Iku is a simple yokai, not a celestial, and heaven is not her main place of residence. However, there does seem to be a hierarchy involving both her and celestials, as she refers to Tenchi as eldest daughter and Lady Tenchi. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Iku first appeared in the final arc. She encountered Reimu's group while visiting Gensokyo in search of Tenchi. While her attitude is businesslike and impersonal, nothing happened to cause misunderstandings or hostility, so Iku was friendly all the way through. She's also one of the few characters whose advice to Tenchi held weight when the Celestial was trying to accept her own individuality, which in turn depicted a shift in Iku's behavior as well. Harmony is a virtue. To maintain harmony, however, gratitude is also necessary. You don't get to use Iku that much, and it's hard to find a spot for her on the team. I'm gonna talk myself into a dry socket. Tied to your fingertips. Alice's theme after the events of Makai. I was requested to convey the feeling of a fresh start while keeping the original track's twinkly vibe, so I arranged the song to sound fairly cutesy. The original track is built upon several repeating short phrases, so I labored to craft this without overly deviating from that structure. The composition turned out just right, I'd say.
I particularly like how the intro phase sneaks back in right before the chorus. The animation for Grand Goo is awesome, by the way, so be sure to check it out. I mean, obviously, I'm looking at Goo. See? Goo, right here, in the flesh. Kaguya, Center of Eternity and the Instantaneous. Capable of manipulating eternity in the instantaneous. Imperishable Night. Holy text bar. A moon princess living at Ayante. She is directly inspired by the Princess Kaguya who appears in the story The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter. In Imperishable Night, she's the mastermind who, when faced with the possibility of lunar emissaries coming, kicked off events by asking Eirin if they could drive off the emissaries and boldly continue living on Earth. Whether you can see through Eirin's trap and reach her depends on the choices in the game. While she once lived a life of luxury on the moon, Kaguya got bored of that lifestyle and had Eirin make her the Horai elixir, which she drank. On the moon, drinking the elixir was taboo, and she was exiled to the Earth for her sin. You know what I like about this story? The idea that, like, Kaguya had Eirin make an elixir of immortality, and then she drank it. And the moon was like, that's against the rules. What? The elixir didn't even exist until about, like, 5 minutes before Kaguya drank it. What the fuck do you mean that's against the rules? Now, I know it's against the rules because how it changed her, you know, life and death. But the way this is worded is like, you're not allowed to drink that. It's the law. Like, this shit didn't even exist 5 minutes ago. Who wrote that in the law? After that, her life on Earth seemed to be more or less played out how it did in The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter. Eventually, her sin was forgiven and a lunar emissary was sent from the moon to bring her back. But sullied as she now was by Earth, she wouldn't be able to go back to her old life there. She'd also formed an attachment towards her life on Earth already, where those who had done so much for her had once lived. So instead, she conspired with the emissary, Eirin, and they both fled. From that point on, she and Eirin began their lives as fugitives, and their story continued in Imperishable Night. After the Eternal Night incident, they undid the spell on Ayante and began living on Earth for real. Her ability, which lets her manipulate eternity and instantaneous, is explained in rich detail by Akyu in Perfect Memento and Strict Sense. In short, eternity refers to a world without history. That is a world which eternally does not change. Anyone Kaguya targets with his ability begins to reject all change. She once placed a spell on Ayante too, which is why it never changed since the moment it was constructed, nor was it ever perceived by anyone nearby. The instantaneous refers to an extremely short period of time. According to Akyu, it's a single moment a human cannot sense on its own. Kaguya is able to act using only groups of those moments. She also never uses this ability in the original work, so anything more specific than that is up for debate. Does anybody even know what the fuck that means? Or how you would even write that as an ability? Ayante contains a great deal of items from the moon, but also mountains of rare objects from Earth, most important of which are the treasures based on her 5 impossible requests. Marissa calls her a collector of rarities in the Grimoire Marissa. She uses these treasures in Danmaku battles as well. In the same book, Marissa also says she's always overjoyed to show you her rarities, and that you can see more if you go to Ayante. It seems she isn't the type to hold anything back. Derivative works commonly depict Kaguya as a shut-in character, which comes from all the time she spent living at Ayante, and how Eirin says in the story that a long time ago, she really did shut herself away for a while. That said, she clearly hates boredom, as evidenced by the story of her drinking the Horai elixir on the moon. In general, she's curious and full of life. Even with regards to her holding up inside Ayante, Kaguya claims Eirin was the one who locked her up to begin with. There isn't much to show that she particularly likes being holed up. Still, it seems she used to have a hard time deciding things for herself. During Cage and Lunatic Runegate, she confesses that there's nothing for her to do. Later, she reassesses her thoughts, saying that it's her own problem, not one of her environment either on Earth or in the lunar capital. The issue of independence comes up whenever people discuss the modern issue of hikikomori, or shut-ins in that sense. One can't quite say she's not related to it on a fundamental level. After reassessing things, she decides to make it her job to raise a bonsai plant as the first step in breaking out of her boring lifestyle. While you may wonder if that really constitutes a job, Kaguya doesn't need to make money like regular people. The job she refers to here is more than likely one of carving out her own way of life on Earth. From that point on, she gradually gets better at actively deciding on things she'll do. During Inaba the Moon, Inaba the Earth, which takes place after that on the timeline, possibly. She certainly does do whatever she pleases, which is significant despite it being a comedy manga. In her original work, she's depicted as carefree and talkative, while her sensibilities are a little off kilter. You could occasionally see her treating her subordinates with kindness and consideration. One could say she's the friendlies of the Ayate's denizens towards the people of Earth, like when she goes to the human village and tells old stories. Akyu has a strange wealth of information on her, so maybe they're friends. Or she read the Bamboo Cutter. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Kaguya appeared in the middle of the part of the Eternity arc. She's characterized by her curiosity, vitality, and benevolence. She wasn't as conflicted or hesitant as Eren about opening Ayate's gates and living on Earth, so in the game, she's pretty relaxed. She doesn't necessarily want to try her hand at everything she comes across, but she usually approaches things with her own style, marching to the beat of her own drum. In the final arc, the Watatsky sisters visited Earth and asked Kaguya her true intentions in a very weighty scene. My 5 impossible requests have defeated many in the past. How many can you complete? This is more of a personal thing to the author, but several things from The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter were snuck into Kaguya's battle dialogue. This is because Imperishable Night was the first game the writer who worked on this library and the battle quotes played. The reason being that Princess Kaguya from the old story was a character in it. They don't particularly love classical literature, but as a thank you to that first encounter, they left some Easter eggs in there. That's cool. I'm not going to pick up any of those, mind you, but, What? Huh? Where does she have faces like that? Where did that face come from? Where did she make that face? What the fuck? She has a completely different portrait style when you put your sleeve up. Hey. I don't even recognize half of these faces, dude. Song of an Unexpectedly Distant Spring. Lily White's theme! I tried to bring out the beauty and clarity of PCB's Stage 4 theme by including the snowy and sparkly sounds of winter into this 4-on-the-floor dancey arrange. I think the capital city of flowers in the sky sounds amazing on a 4-beat rhythm and fits well among the darker battle and phase themes. As the character count keeps increasing and we get representatives of the different season, so it's cool to see how much musical variety there is. It's a pretty rare song with how few scenes you could hear it in, so I'd appreciate it if you listen to it once in a while. This only plays when Lily is sad. That's Lily's sad mode. Kanako. Avatar of mountains and lakes, capable of creating Tian, Mountain of Faith. The god of the Moria Shrine who came to Gensokyo from the outside world in search of faith. Not long after arriving there, they approach the Hatate Shrine, kicking off the events of Mountain of Faith. In that game, she awaits the player characters as the Stage 6 boss. Her direct appearances after that aren't exactly numerous, but she still very much exists in the way that she works behind the scenes of other stories and gets brought up by the characters who do appear. She's essentially the driving force behind the Moria Shrine's major influence, despite over Gensokyo, despite being a newer faction. I'm trying. There we go. Kanako is the god in charge of the Moria Shrine, and she acts dignified and majestic to normal people. Her lecture even spooked Reimu. She's very frank around Shrine Maidens and her own. She loves new things like plotting industrial revolutions. You know, typical woman habit. Suako also mentions that Kanako worries about Sanai all the time, giving her a sense of humanity that makes her a little easier to get close with. While Kanako is now deified as a god of the mountain, she was originally a god of wind and rain. This is discussed in the character setting text file, where it says it's very complicated and that the only ones who know the truth behind it are Suako and Kanako herself. As stated before, Kanako came to Gensokyo to acquire faith. The reason for that was how all the gods in the outside world were steadily losing faith. Rather than sit there and embark on the path of decline, her plan to get faith back was to remove the shrine from the human world and make it a product of illusion, then gather faith in Gensokyo. It was a last-ditch effort fraught with risk, since it would bring all the faith she gained in the outside world to nothing. As a result, Kanako was acknowledged as the god of the Moria Shrine and of Yokai Mountain, accepted by the yokai, and brought into the circle. While this is positively described as the form of the faith Kanako desired, Hatate makes the criticism and double spoiler that both the Moria Shrine and the Tengu are trying to exploit one another for their own gain. Whatever the case, the Moria Shrine has certainly been accepted in against Sokyo, so Kanako's schemes can be called a success. However, in Moff's character setting text file, it's implied that Kanako and the others lending their assistance may ruin the delicate power balance against Sokyo, tying it up by saying that there are still problems to be solved. That turned out to be true. After Kanako's first appearance, she ended up indirectly causing several incidents and issues. Perhaps those too were because of the ideas and prompt resolutions she had before she grew fully accustomed against Sokyo. You can see the Moria Shrine term entry for more information, but in the past, Kanako conquered the kingdom under Suiko's control and became its new ruler. Because of that, the shrine is managed by both gods, but Kanako acts as the forward-facing one. Wearing Shiminawa and Onbashida on her back and a mirror on her chest, even the term ostentatious seems insufficient to describe her extremely characteristic clothing. If you consider Kanako's role and that she chose those elements not purely for fashion reasons, but to display her character, divinity, and majesty as a god, things make more sense. Naturally, due to her position, Kanako is the one with leadership over the Moria Shrine, and the one who decides to forsake the outside world in favor against Sokyo. Since arriving, she spearheaded all these schemes, like her push for industrial revolution on the mountain. She seems to be more zealous about acquiring faith. Kanako shows a kind of earnest sincerity in risking the shrine's well-being in pursuit of faith, but she's so filled with life that you can't feel the sorrow in it. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Kanako appeared in the very first part of the game, the Scarlet Arc. Since the Moria Shrine came against Sokyo at about the same time the Scarlet Mist incident occurred, she served as the final boss of the first part of the Mystic Arc featuring the Mountain of Faith storyline. Her attitude as an enemy goes without saying, but much of her behavior even after that spoke to a consciousness of her dignity and reputation. With over a year having passed after arriving against Sokyo, she seems to have grown quite accustomed to this promised land. In the Eternity Arc, she finally joined the main characters. There, she became one of the party's driving forces. Oh yeah, she drives the car. Sure, but that's it. Without faith, shrines are reduced to mere huts. One would simply be visiting a hut every day. Now, will you experience the wrathful spirit of a god? Welcome to my hut. Welcome to my hut. I don't think I've ever seen her make a satisfied face like that. Jazzy. Snow White Lail. Lily White's themed cheerful version. I packed in lots of energy and forward momentum into this arrangement. By the way, Leila is Turkish word for tulips. She's named Lily White, so you'd expect white lilies, right? But there's a lovely breed of white tulip called a Spring Angel, so I named it this way as a nod to that affinity. I poured my heart into this one. Keine. Half beast of knowledge, expanding knowledge, and history, capable of eating, hiding history, imperishable night. A therianthrope who lives in the human village. Specifically, she is a were-hakutaku. She's normally human, but transforms to a hakutaku on the night of the full moon. Basically, she's a werewolf, but a hakutaku instead of a wolf. She may be a therianthrope, but she loves humans with Imperishable Night's character setting text file noting that she only uses her ability for their good. In fact, she confronts the players in Stage 3 in order to protect the human village. Being both serious and intellectual, she's rather fussy about greetings and etiquette. Meanwhile, though, she's also somewhat long-winded, which truly fits her role as a teacher. It's very rare for anyone in Toho Project to both live in the village and be an ally to humans. However, this doesn't mean she thoughtlessly antagonizes yokai, and in Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red, she even criticizes humans who want to drive out the yokai from Gensokyo, arguing in favor of the current balance. She can be described as a sensible person who fully understands the state of Gensokyo and chooses to side with the humans. Her main job is compiling history, but she lamented the villagers' shallow understanding of the subject, so she opened up a temple school. Refer to the temple school entry for more detail. Her ability to eat, conceal history is a type of illusion technique. It can hide existing objects and make it seem like they never existed in the first place. As for why this equates to eating history specifically, it's because the word history holds special meaning in Toho Project. According to what Akyu says in Perfect Memento in strict sense, history is created at will by individuals and administrators and doesn't necessarily match up with the truth. In other words, history is like a description in a book, which is something anyone can manipulate and twist. Erase the name of a town on a map, for example, and it would appear that the town doesn't exist. Kane's ability is to do this on a much larger scale. She could erase the real-life town itself. What she can't do is erase the truth that the town existed or people's memories of it. Because of that, when she erased the human village in Imperishable Night, Reimu and the others were suspicious about it being gone. In addition, her ability doesn't work at all on stronger yokai such as Yukari. Is that true? Keine knew Moko since before IN. She's one of the few that understands her. It's never stated how the two met, but perhaps Moko found her when she became a Hakutaku and learned about Gensokyo's history. Perhaps through that connection, she also knew about Ayante before the Eternal Night incident. For a long time, Keine was the only theory entrope character in the series, but a wolf girl would later appear in double-dealing character. Who's that? However, she doesn't live in the human village. No other beastmen aside from Keine who do live there have ever shown up. And while it appears that Keine became a were-Hakutaku at some point in her life rather than being born as one, the reason for it is when it happened is all unknown. As an aside, Keine's last name, Kameshirasawa, can also be read as Uwa Hakutaku. This seems to reflect her status as a were-Hakutaku. Naturally, since she wasn't born a were-Hakutaku, this is probably just a bit of wordplay. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Keine appeared in Chapter 1 of Rainbow's Route. With her natural earnestness and firm motivation to protect the human village, she essentially became one of the group's leaders. I will not let one bullet touch the human village or its history. She turned green. Keine Beast Mode. Lily Black. The theme of Lily White doing cosplay, aka Lily Black. The character's halfway to original character land, honestly, but while chatting over some Gilpassel and beers, the team realized she wouldn't take many resources to make, and so this silly replacement unit was born. I doubt many games would bother making 3 different themes for Lily, but I also doubt anyone's complaining about more music, right? So enjoy. Keine. Half-beast of knowledge and history, capable of creating history. This entry is about Keine who transformed into a Hakutaku. Refer to Keine Kameshirasawa for more details on Keine as a character. On the night of the full moon, Keine transformed to a Hakutaku. Akyu refers to this process with the term animalization, in perfect memento and strict sense, but it's hard to call her an animal by her external appearance. In the Perishable Night's extra stage, Kaguya sends the player on a test of courage. As they head to where Moko is, Keine appears first. In this form, Keine has knowledge of everything in Gensokyo and the power to create history. She never uses this power in the story though, so it's unclear what it does. In perfect memento and strict sense, history is defined as the truth as seen from a single perspective. And when you consider her power to hide history, it seems unlikely that this means the power to change the truth or manipulate people's memories. Perhaps it's the power to know the history of a Gensokyo, where something is currently made to have never happened. What? Keine uses this ability to compile history books, but as she seems to be able to do an entire month's job in a single night while under Hakutaku form, it keeps her extremely busy. In addition, when she fights the players in Stage 3 of the Perishable Night, she curses the fact that the moon isn't full, so she appears to be stronger as a Hakutaku. In fact, she showed that upgraded power when she appears in the extra stage. The way she decides to protect Moko instead of working on such a precious night of the full moon gives a glimpse of their relationship. Fans will sometimes call this form Chemo Keine, which originates from how she shows up while the players engage in a test of courage, Kimodameshi. I've never heard Chemo Keine. Incidentally, just like the killing in the Feng Wang Chinese Phoenix, the Hakutaku is a fictional creature, sacred beast that appears in Chinese mythology. There it's called the Bai Zei. The Hakutaku is a very auspicious being, said to reveal itself during the reigns of virtuous rulers. Wise in all things in creation, its image seems to have been frequently used in the past for protective charms, such as one that warded off evil and disease. While the Hakutaku is a pretty obscure sacred beast in Japan now, it was widely known during the Edo period, and despite only receiving a scant 2 sentences in it, Ryoan Terashima selected the Hakutaku to record in his encyclopedia the Wakan Sansei Zue, written in 1712. Because there were no full moon scenes in either the Scarlet or Mystic arcs, Keine had to wait until the Eternity arc to show off her Hakutaku form. What about the big Scarlet Moon? We struggled a lot with how to handle her alternative form mechanics-wise, since the settings are very clear that she only becomes one during a full moon. But in the end, we decided to stay faithful to her original character and have her Hakutaku form only usable during a select few stages, leading to how it is now. In the game, she can utilize the Hakutaku's power for a short time via a stone containing lunar waves. Yeah. Angie. Grr. Grr. Luna Crescente. The theme of the head of the Prism River Ensemble, Lunasa. This was the start of the music's team Prism River Hell. We got driving violins and intense solo sections. You'd think Lunasa's theme would be depressing, but the tune is so intense it's actually kind of exhausting. You should put some oomph in your voice when you say Luna Crescente. I based the title on strings on the moon and consider the Stradivarius. I wanted something that sounded Italian. I'm sure some of you already know, but with the blessing of everyone at Sambado, I've included an extended version of the song on an album I released under my own circle, Tobu Kaita Kuchi. If you happen to stumble across it somewhere, give it a listen. Cool. Kishumi. Fearsome well spirit, capable of dropping will-o'-the-wisps. The stage 1 mid-boss of subterranean animism and a Surube Otoshi who fought the player character at the entrance of the underworld. She has no dialogue, but her entrance was certainly impactful. Because she's in a bucket in every single one of her appearances, nobody knows what's going on inside of it. Kasumi's appearance is perfectly fitting of a Surube Otoshi. She's in a Surube, a well bucket. Once you see her, you'll never forget her. Who knows where the other end of the rope coming out of the bucket is attached to. The character setting text file states that she's in a bucket because she loves small places. While Kasume's lack of dialogue means nobody knows how she talks, there are several indirect references to it. The character setting text file writes that she is reserved, while in double spoiler, Aya says that she's a violent yokai. In addition, in Symposium of Post-Mysticism includes a Boom Boom Round News clipping about her, which says the Surube Otoshi appears from dry wells and does awful things. In derivative works, perhaps because of a note in essay, Kasume seems to be frequently portrayed as a reserved, shy character. Incidentally, the Surube Otoshi of real-life legend appears outdoors from under trees and such, and the Surube, well bucket, part of the name is just a metaphor. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Kasume first appeared in the Mystic arc. She returned in the Eternity arc, this time with a spell card in hand. She characterized as having a reserved personality, since she's still learning from her many predecessors. Yamame is also friends with her, and the two are frequently seen together. That's a good one. Fear. Fear. Shiny Trans Blue. The theme of the face of the Prisoner Ensemble Merlin. The trumpet gets top billing in this arrangement based on ska, genre of music I personally adore. Intense piano, backing horns, drum fills. Phantom Ensemble lets you get away with a lot, so I try to really emphasize the excitement. The song's name is based on the blue sun on her hat and her own incredibly sunny disposition. As a prefix, trance can mean something like across or beyond, but as a genre of music, trance is said to represent a mental state of inspiration or ecstasy. I think that's pretty appropriate for Merlin, who can control manic sound and disturb your mind. Dude, I love the fucking trumpet grinding on that. Koakuma! A devil living in the Scarlet Devil Mansion, the stage 4 mid-boss of embodiment of Scarlet Devil. Just like Daiyousei, she has no actual name, let alone any dialogue or portraits. While Koakuma means little devil, it's not referring to her personality, though some derivative works depict her like that, but rather to the fact that she's a weak devil. Again, like Daiyousei, while she's supposed to be upbeat and mischievous, none of them appear in the original work, so fans have made up their own character for her. In particular, since she appears in the library stage, she's often treated as Patchoul's personal servant or librarian. In the Three Fairies manga, she appears in only one panel, but even there, she's serving drinks in the library. Koakuma works as a librarian in Patchoul's library of Fantasy Maiden Wars 2. While at first she has a serious, bookish personality, starting in the Mystic arc, the library hardly ever shows up, so she acts more like Patchoul's secretary. In fact, they're together for most of their scenes. Once the Palico ship comes into the picture, she sometimes works on it as something like an operator. She's great. See? We love Koakuma! Heart eyes. Heart eyes. Many heart eyes. Yep. Ooh. Trumpet solo. Your sparkling sound. Lyrica's theme. As a keyboard player myself, Lyrica is my favorite of the sisters, so I was responsible for her theme. So naturally, this tune's all about the piano. Oh yeah, and her attacks are pretty distinctive, right? I crafted a special sound effect just for her charging attack. In-game, her most unique skill is Let's Go, Girls. It lets her get support attacks from anyone. Combine it with your high-cost units and you're golden. Hold on, are they all done by different people? Oh no, okay, so Ibiza did two of them and Kobu did that one. Okay. Kogasa. Cheery, forgotten umbrella, capable of surprising humans. An umbrella, that's a lot of fucking bar. An umbrella that fell into disuse and transformed to a yokai. She takes the form of a girl holding an umbrella and has a cheerful, energetic personality. She first appears in Stage 2 of Undefined Fantastic Object as a passing yokai, and again in the extra stage as the mid-boss. In both instances, she just happened to be passing by, had little connection to the story, but she makes a sudden reappearance after that in 10 Desires, where it's revealed she made the Myonin Temple graveyard her base of operations and now has ties to the temple's yokai. She appears in Wildhorn Hermit as well, where it's shown that she has an unexpected special skill and connection to the human village. While she's by no means a main character, her many appearances leave an impression. Character setting text file gives details on Kogasa's backstory, saying that she was an umbrella somebody forgot, but it was such a weird color that nobody picked it up. Eventually, while being blown through a rainstorm, it became a yokai. While it's a sad backstory and there are depictions of her caring about it, she generally never loses her optimistic cheerfulness. Kogasa is shown as getting energy from surprising humans. She makes remarks that scaring people is a yokai's life, and that when they don't get scared, she goes hungry. However, according to her, less people are getting scared by her lately, which has turned into a source of worry. To solve the problem, Kogasa is researching more ways to scare people, like studying old scary stories or going after people on grave visitations. That said, it seems she strayed off course quite a bit with some of her attempts. She tried jostling people to force them to be frightened, as well as relying on non-umbrella tools such as konnyaku. She only needs a person to be surprised, so her danger level in the Gensokyo Chronicle is listed as low. In Akyu's words, she's only good enough to scare children. In fact, she's very friendly towards humans, even close with them. This is probably why she does all sorts of things in the human village. While she's obsessed with surprising people, Kogasa has a passion for helping people. Sometimes she will volunteer as a babysitter. Parents aren't too fond of her, but she's popular with the children. She's even said before that if she can't get people to use her as an umbrella, then she wants to make herself into another tool that will help others. An admirable mindset. It's unclear whether that's best for a Sakumogami, but one of the motifs of the character in Undefined Fantastic Object is that they're wavering between different ways of life. This gives Kogasa a deeper, fitting connection to Myonin Temple. That said, she's got nothing to do with the conflicts. While her connection to the human village is never clarified, she is a talented smith, and in Wildhorn Hermit, she's shown using that talent to make a living. She professes her skills to be much higher than any human smiths, and her items even shock Reimu Marissa. The Gensokyo Chronicle has nothing to say on the matter. That's because that came out, It's probably because her article in the Chronicle came out before that chapter in Wildhorn Hermit. Doesn't seem like she's doing business in the human village, so it's not clear what form her business actually takes. That said, when she took on the request for Reimu for a needle, she got her promise to keep the fact that she was making weapons for yokai extermination a secret from other yokai. It might mean she has several other secret clients as well. In that light, perhaps she's actually quite a powerful acumen for business. Kogasa has a clear goal and makes strides to achieve that goal while relying on Reimu and the others whenever she spots a dangerous yokai. With Toho Project's entire cast being filled with quirky characters, she stands out with a way of life and ideas that seem to be rooted in common sense. Of course, you definitely get the feeling from her personality and things she says that she's not too smart, and it isn't as if she comes across as mature. Possibly out of odd personality mismatches, every human she meets invariably treats her terribly. Even during her appearances across printworks, she's always getting dragged into situations and being made to cry. Trivia surrounding the unique parts of Kogasa's design is famous among fans. She has different colored eyes, their left eye being red and her right being aqua blue. Her hair and clothing also use the aqua color close to her right eye. This makes her left red eye stand out just like the one-eyed Karakase Obake. Her design somewhat obscures things like these, leading to realizations and fun conversations. Also the fact that her poses usually have one leg up like her umbrella. It's neat. As she's a Karakase Obake, her existence is inseparable from the umbrella. Symposium of Post-Mysticism claims that she can only exist in a form carrying an umbrella. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Kogasa first appeared in the final arc. Before that, she's been living in Gensokyo, some characters having heard rumors about her. So, she then made a surprising appearance to give a hint to where Koishi was. Afterwards, she tagged along like she was always supposed to be there. Perhaps she thinks of it as a good deed towards others. I never! Thou wouldst call me anachronistic? Oogly boogity boo. Oogly boogity boo. The Netherrealm's Prism Phantoms. The Prism River Sisters theme has got to be one of the tastiest in all of Toho. So for the events of Fantasy Maiden Wars, we tried our hands at a collaborative work. Working off Kobu's plan, we each added our own parts that when added together make for an arrangement where each of the sisters is going ham, but it still sounds like a proper song. A particular note in the last part, if you listen close, you'll notice the track mixes in the solo phases from the end of each sister's personal theme. Definitely worth keeping an ear open for. Ibiza. I half-jokingly said if we're doing the Prism Rivers, we need 3 solo themes plus a group theme, and so it was. The two of us produced a variety of Phantom Ensemble arrangements, and our chemistry produced an even more interesting song, so I call this experiment a success. By the way, I was in charge of the first chorus, and Ibiza handled the second. Kobu. Koishi. Closed eye of love, capable of manipulating the unconscious. Satori Komeji's younger sister. While Koishi is a Satori yokai like her, she sealed away her ability to read minds of her own accord. She first appears as the extra stage boss in Subterranean Animism. During a visit she paid to Moriya's shrine for a certain reason, she ended up butting heads with the players, who also had traveled there. According to the character setting text file, the reason Koishi sealed up her abilities is because she learned how reading minds earned hatred. She also tells Reimu during their first meeting that there's nothing good about reading minds and it only ever makes her depressed. Though losing her mind reading ability, she instead gained the ability to control the unconscious mind and now lives as a wandering drifter. This ability to control the unconscious mind is described as an ability to unilaterally act upon someone's unconscious to erase her own presence and make it so they don't actually see her. But it's actually more complex and deep-rooted than that. After battling Koishi in Hopeless Masquerade, Reimu seems to forget who she was fighting, and Marissa comments that she wasn't sure why she was battling at all. In addition, the newspaper article, When You Win With Her, describes her as an unknown yokai, depicting Koishi's very presence imperceptible. Because she acts within a person's unconscious, Koishi's own actions are restricted as well. Koishi's objectives are erased, and those she fights never register they were fighting each other. One could say her ability endangers her very existence as an individual. While the character tends to invoke empathy, partly because of what led her to seal her ability away, the character setting text file comments that her dislike of reading minds is just a form of escapism, and that it doesn't change that she willingly closed off her own heart, indicating immaturity and an inability to confront the feelings of others. Alright, whoever wrote this is going in on her right now. Glazing the shit out of fucking Eren, and then we're over here saying that Koishi's choice is immature. Underscoring this, there are many clear changes in lifestyle and developments that imply such during the games she appears in. Things like her conversations with the players during their Danmaku battles in Subterranean Animism, and her innocent joy at others paying attention to her in Hopeless Masquerade all seem like new discoveries to her. At times this can instill hope, and at others it is tragic. She's a very profound character. Despite her usual aimless wandering, she does go back to the Palace of Earth Spirits and appears to have a fairly good relationship with her older sister. When she heard about Reimu and the others from her, she went off to fight them herself without even mentioning Orin or Oku, implying she was only doing so because they defeated her sister. I thought she went up to the Moriya Shrine because she heard they granted one of Satori's pets power. Satori worries about Koishi's situation and she assigned pets to her to try and let her open up again, almost as a form of animal therapy. It seems to be effective too. Her visiting the Moriya Shrine in Subterranean Animism is to try and give more power to her pets. Yeah, there you go. But like, what was the top bit? While her strange behavior makes it hard to grasp her personality, in Subterranean Animism she's overjoyed at how there are plenty of strong people up on the surface too. It doesn't think too hard about Utsu coming into her own power, only considering it a good thing. In Hopeless Masquerade, she also remarks on how cool all the other characters doing Danmaku battles are, and tries to imitate them, all of which points to an innocent side of her that loves strong people. She also gives out that unique underworld yokai aura and how she uses chilling and violent words like slaughter, massacre, and dying a dog's death in a bright and cheerful way. She's famous for her line about decorating the Palace of Earth Spirit's entrance with the player's corpse. Yeah, she did say that, didn't she? In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Koishi first appeared in the Mystic arc. While she still lives in a life of unconscious wandering, Fantasy Maiden Wars makes a change in that she goes home to the Palace of the Earth Spirits at regular intervals daily by the time the story starts. Her pet, which you can see in the original games, is also non-existent in Fantasy Maiden Wars. This is before Satori assigns a pet for her animal therapy, during a time when Satori is struggling to figure out how to deal with her. In the final part of the Eternity arc, after parting ways with Satori, she stopped going home to the palace. In the beginning of the final arc, the underworld yokai went up to the surface in search of Koishi, putting her at the center of the early storyline. After an extremely unusual stage, she joins forces with the main group. My Satori eye? Oh, I closed it off. Reading minds isn't good for anything anyway. It just makes me depressed. Oh. Why? You have... Even her smiles seem pained, you know? I think it's just the eyebrow placement. The pain smiles. It's really good. Wish Upon a Rainbow. The theme for Concerto Grosso Tribute. We wanted a stage where the villain was defeated with the power of music, so this is what I came up with. Then I wanted to delve deeper into the Prison River's music. The spell was originally Concerto Grosso Kai, often translated as revised, but I think naming it in tribute to Leila was a pretty unique idea. The song has a J-pop feel, and it has loop points through the entire length of it to match the developments during the stage. I don't think many strategy games would bother matching music gameplay to this extent, so keep your ears open if you do a second playthrough. I didn't notice that. Komachi. A Shinigami, guide of the Sanza River, capable of manipulating distance. A Shinigami serving as a Sanza River ferryman. Being a Shinigami, her base of operations is not in Gensokyo, but she's frequently in charge of the souls that live there, which is possibly why she visits often. She has a deep connection to the incident in Phantasmagoria Flower View, where she makes her debut appearance. However, she shows herself to be pretty relaxed in most routes, which usually earns her a scolding from Eiki. Komachi is cheerful, generous, and affable. The bonus text file of Scarlet with a Rhapsody describes her as being like an Edo girl. Her name translates to small town beauty. Unlike most characters in Toho Project, Komachi has a clear job to do, and you can see her actually doing it. Unfortunately, she isn't very dutiful and slacks off quite a bit. It seems that habit is known through Gensokyo, since Aizen says she's famous for not doing her job. She takes it in good grace though, marching to the beat of her own very unique drum even when she's actually working. She even gets fussy about the order in which she sends souls across the river. Her attitude ended up being one of the triggers for the Great Barrier incident in Phantasmagoria Flower View, but that didn't teach her a lesson either. Even in Scarlet with a Rhapsody, that earns her a scolding, this time from Yukari. While Komachi's penchant for slacking off and enjoying conversations with the souls she ferries isn't exactly praiseworthy behavior for a ferryman, in Scarlet with a Rhapsody, she plays an oddly tasteful little game where she divines her opponent's temperament based on their weather, as well as talking about various things from her unique perspective as a Shinigami. This all combines to make her one of Toho Project's most important characters in bringing life to the world and setting. She also once had a column in the Boom Boom newspaper that was called Next Week's Dead. That might have created concerns about information leaks or the people who were named freaking out, but the abysmally low accuracy led to poor reviews. It's not known whether Komachi was just naming people at random or people's lifespans changed frequently as a part of Toho Project setting or something. Could you imagine reading the papers and reading the soon-to-be obituaries and you see your name in there? In addition, the Shinigami had a somewhat unique background in Toho Project. Please see the entry Shinigami for more details. In Fantasy Maiden War's main story, she first appeared in the Mystic arc. There, she helped resolve the incident alongside the allied units. She was already friends with Sakuya before she appeared in the story. This is an original setting of Fantasy Maiden Wars, and something happens in the special Sakuya arc. As a resident of Higan, she views things through a different lens than the other characters. At times, she shows a sharp insightfulness that speaks to her status as a Shinigami. Oh, it's way too early to die, and there's still so much to enjoy in this world. One of the worst units in the game. Right here. Shame. Oops. Light Sword Flash. Yomu's theme song. I wrote this song a long time ago, but I'm still fond of how well it came together as a J-Rock song. Yomu's battle animation have a real speedy feel to them, so I think it's a good fit for the game. Kurumi. The guardian vampire of the lake in front of Mugenkan. She appears as the Stage 2 boss in Lotus Land story, where she intercepted Reimu and Marissa when they arrived at the lake. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Kurumi came to Gensokyo with Elly in pursuit of their master, Yuka. During the Scarlet arc, she was freeloading at the Scarlet Devil Mansion, doing chores in the library. She became a fixed party member at the start of the Mystic arc. During the Eternity arc, the scenario team debated having her leave the team for a long period of time to coincide with Yuka's joining and leaving, but ended up keeping her with the main group. Could you imagine if she's just like, because you get Yuka in Marissa's side, she shows up and she hangs out. Imagine if she comes along with Kurumi. It's like, holy shit, Kurumi! Oh, where have you been? Oh, I missed you, buddy. Like, if you stuck Kurumi to Yuka there, I don't think anybody would give a fuck. Well, Kurumi shares her vampiric nature with the Scarlet Sisters. In this game, she's a few levels below them. She's fine going out in the sun for convenience during the game, but the absurd way we explained it behind the scenes was this. The stronger vampires have more weak points than would a weak vampire have less. And we are prepared to die on that hill. Her personality is mostly original to the Sanbando staff image of her. She generally acts like a child. That said, she doesn't act like Elly's little sister. Instead, the two of them act like Yuka's little sisters. She also has an inexplicable distaste for bladed objects. Many of these types of unique character settings are a result of staff members thinking it would be cute addition to her personality, and that goes for more than just Kurumi. Hi, I'm Kurumi. I guard this lake. Thank you for the 5 gifted, Kiara. I think that's 5. It scrolled too fast. Alright, we're gonna do 2 more, chat. 2 more. As steadfast as a Shura. Yomu's enemy theme. I'm an old hand at creating rock songs, and this one was no different. People on staff told me this fits Yomu's tangled mess of feelings well, which was also nice to hear. Leila. No image. No image. A character only mentioned in the character setting text file of Perfect Cherry Blossom, the youngest daughter of the wealthy Count Prism River. It was she who created the 3 ghostly Prism River sisters. She was a human, already deceased by the events of the game. Because she doesn't appear in the game, her appearance is a Sanbando original design. Originally the youngest of Count Prism River's 4 daughters, a certain magical item caused the family to break up. Leila was left by herself in mansion. That was when she created the spirits resembling her distant, scattered older sisters. Eventually, the entire mansion ended up against Sokyo. Leila lived out a humble but happy life with her 3 ghost sisters. Upon her passing, it was instead the 3 sisters left behind, and they continued to live in the Prism River mansion. That is Leila's story explained in extremely simple terms. That was how the 3 Prism River sisters were born. Because of how sad the story is, we'll leave it to the reader to seek out the details on their own. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, the group briefly encountered Leila the Dreamscape. By artificially recreating her loneliness and the events leading to the Prism River sisters' birth, we wanted to hone in on the Prism River sisters' foundation, as mentioned by Eiki and Phantasmagoria Flower View. Yuko's theme song. I wanted to express PCB as a world dyed in shades of sakura and orchids. So I arranged the song to have a slower paced tempo than the original, with a lot more reverb. I think I practiced the piano for like 6 months for this. It's pretty different from our usual intense battle themes, but I hope to depict something that didn't belong in this world. Damn. Letty. What winter left behind, capable of manipulating winter. A yokai seen only in winter. Akyu describes her as a type of Yuki Onna. In Perfect Cherry Blossom, Rainbow and the others ran into her while she was enjoying the long winter, and they ended up fighting. While she loves winter, she understands that spring must come and doesn't hate the other seasons. Her ability to manipulate the cold is described, in perfect memento and strict sense, as enhancing the winter that exists in nature. In other words, winter is really the only time she can use it. But when it is winter, she can combine her powers with the season to incredible effect. While she lacks the power to directly change the weather, Aya says in Shoot the Bullet that it suddenly started snowing despite it being sunny out a moment ago, implying that boosting the cold can indirectly change the weather. Furthermore, Letty mentions a Bohemian Archive in Japanese Red that when she's inactive during non-winter seasons, she hides and rests somewhere the sun will never reach. While she has very few appearances and isn't depicted having any particular relationships with other characters, many derivative works give her a relationship with Cirno. As they have similar powers and appear in the same stage, they are often shown on good terms. However, Letty calls Cirno a small anomaly of nature and herself a great yokai who actually lives in nature, implying that they aren't especially close. That said, when you consider fairies don't especially care if a yokai gives them recognition, she probably doesn't hate the fairy or get along poorly with her. One famous meme is that Letty is chubby. This comes from the fact that her hitbox is larger than her sprite in the game and has nothing to do with how she actually appears. And really, if you focus solely on her appearance, she seems rather slender. Oh yeah. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Letty is relatively cool-headed. In the Mystic arc, she was an important character whose earnest attitude stood out. The game also made that her first meeting with Cirno and depicted the two of them becoming closer. In the Eternity arc, she made an appearance when winter came. In the final arc, though it was past time for her to leave, she stuck it out through to the end. Let me put you to sleep, a deep, peaceful sleep. You ever see Letty in pants? Pretty good. Gotta say, pretty good. All right, let's finish the L's. Chat, I'm not gonna do any art tonight, cause I want to go eat. Honestly, I want to go eat, and I find that usually when I do art on days where I get up in the morning for work, I don't particularly enjoy it. Usually at that point, I'm just like running on fumes. So we're gonna finish these last 5 here, and I'm gonna wrap it up, get some food. And then tomorrow won't be art either because it's Saturday. So art will be back. Art always comes back. Yesterday's art was particularly difficult, so, you know. Order of life. Theme of Resurrection Butterfly. I crafted this in the image of the original, so both the tune and the title are the same. The original piano parts are from the Sakura Fantasy. Lily! Who's that? Lily Black. Fairy Herald of Spring. Lily White wearing black clothes. In Phantasmagoria Flower Review, Lily White appeared wearing black clothes, and fans took to calling her a different person who looked just like Lily White. Look at those expressions. Evil. As such, the name Lily Black became popular, although she's never officially called that. Moreover, for a long time, it was unclear whether it was really Lily White in black clothes or a totally different person. Ultimately, Zun said it was just Lily White, and the dispute was settled once and for all. That said, in Silent Thunder and Blue, a character resembling Lily Black appeared in the same place as Lily White, so we can't fully deny that there was a fairy who looked a lot like Lily White. Still, many derivative works have portrayed her as a separate character, and you can say that she's just as loved as Lily White herself. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, she's interpreted as Lily White with a different costume. She made an abrupt appearance as an equipment change. Perhaps she changes a bit too much just for a change in clothes. The Dancing Blooming Butterfly Girl Like hell, you're a stage 1 boss. Theme of the familiar townsperson A, also known as Yuko Saiyoji. I tried to match Lady Yu's vibes in the transition from PCB to IN, but even I think this might be a bit overboard. Lady Yuko seems like she should be fighting gracefully and beautifully, especially looking at Kobu's songs for during the Mystic arc. I was worried Sanban might get mad and order a redo, so I started fretting, but instead he said some nonsense like, oh, this is actually... And Lady Yu is so fluffy and charming, it's cute. It even got a good reaction at the Sanbando Residence playtest for some reason. Of course, Mr. Sanban loves the Yuyuko theme. It seems to recall saying cheers every time we hit the intro, I think. At any rate, Night Sakura of Dead Spirits is real good. Alright. Lily! A fairy herald of spring, capable of announcing the arrival of spring. A fairy that announces the coming of spring. Arriving from the west, she announces spring to everyone against Sokyo before seeming to leave for Yokai Mountain. While she has appeared in Perfect Cherry Blossom, Phantasmagoria, Flower View, and Great Fairy Wars, she has no lines or spell cards. Extremely weak, the character settings text file calls Lily White little better than cannon fodder, and Perfect Memento in strict sense says she's been captured by children before. However, she powers up when she's announcing spring, and even gets so excited she attacks with Danmaku. That said, she doesn't intend to defeat anyone, and seems to consider it a way to announcing spring. While her duty is limited to announcing, she can't cause winter to become spring. Power of nature in spring lets her make flowers bloom. Despite being a fairy, Lily White doesn't play pranks and is therefore harmless, since she can also make people happy by blooming flowers. Perfect Memento in strict sense gives her a very low danger level and a high friendship with humans, and says that seeing her is a good omen. One could consider her a sign of the season for the residents against Sokyo. While again, it's unclear where she is or what she's doing in the off-season, she doesn't disappear entirely and is somewhere out there waiting for spring. She works various different odd jobs. This is canon lore. In Silent Thunder and Blue, she appears at a winter party at the Sky Devil Mansion, so it's not like she's hibernating in the winter or anything. Well, that's because she was the party coordinator. They hired her for that. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Lily White is well-mannered and honest because the things she says stands out, sometimes being oddly based on instinct instead of reason. The story writing team thinks of her like a strange, mysterious girl. In the Mystic arc, she was involved as a victim of the incident. She spoke in a pretty level-headed way, even in later parts of the story after the seasons changed. She always found whatever reason to continue being part of the group. In the Eternity arc, and unique to Fantasy Maiden Wars, she starts to get along well with Racing too.
There's that trademark smile. Cirno Fantasia. The theme of Ran going ham as an enemy. Cirno, in this case, uses the same kanji for indigo as Ran's name. But my personal impression of Ran, strong superior, the true last boss direct subordinate into the song, and the results are very climactic. Kokuri's contract includes 2 very cool cut-ins. Check out her finisher when you get the chance. Luna. Silent moonlight, capable of erasing sound. Eastern and Little Nature deity. One of the main characters of the 3 Fairies manga series. Of the 3 Fairies of Light, Luna is the Fairy of Moonlight. With a somewhat calmer demeanor, Luna sometimes objects to Sunny's crazy plans, but in general she enjoys playing pranks with the other 2. She's extremely clumsy and will trip over nothing and always draw the short straw. Her ability is to cancel sound around her. She can freely converse with her friends as they creep around without a sound, so it seems like she can control the ability's scope to some extent. She can be frequently seen reading the Boom Boom on a newspaper and enjoying butter burbuds, giving her a different vibe than the other fairies. It's not actually known how she's getting her hands on the newspapers, though. The 3 fairies don't appear to have any money, so maybe she gets it off the ground from somewhere else. Luna can recover from injuries more quickly by basking in moonlight. When night comes, she becomes more active and sometimes goes off on her own. On the other hand, she's the earliest riser of the 3, which means her lifestyle is full of mysteries. As a moonlight fairy, maybe she doesn't need as much sleep as other creatures. Also, in Perfect Memento and Strict Sense, she's introduced as the white one out of the 3 red, white, and blue fairies, giving a glimpse of Akyu's own offhanded treatment of them. In the Scarlet arc, she tripped every time she appeared, her clumsiness coming through perfectly. While she doesn't have many tripping scenes from the Mystic arc onwards, we think she still trips sometimes, it's just not depicted. Well, sorry. Get him, Luna. Ow! Chestnut mouth, go! She's great. She's the most popular of the 3. But I'm a sunny boy. Excel Fox. Ran's theme as an ally. There's a few different ways people write the original song's name. I went with the version that includes the exclamation point at the end. If I just envision it, I can go even faster is a line of hers I liked, hence Excel Fox. I halfway made the song on my own just because I like the Phantasm stage theme, so I hope you'll enjoy that sense of acceleration leading to the hook. Hope we managed to change your view of how our enemy theme depicted her. Oh, I like her enemy theme a lot more though. I changed it manually. Lunasa. Poltergeist violinist, capable of performing melancholic notes. Perfect cherry blossom. The eldest sister of the Prism Rivers. This entry only covers Lunasa on an individual level. Refer to the Prism River Sisters entry for more information on the 3 of them as a group. The sounds Lunasa produces have the power to calm people down, and overexposure can make people depressed. She also calls her violin the phantom of an instrument so famous even a Stradivarius would pale at the sight of it. Much like the sound she produces, her personality is gloomy too. That said, the character setting text file says she's a talented honors student type, hates dishonesty and crookedness, and always does what she needs to do. So her character goes deeper than her timidity. Also, her harsh victory lines in Phantasmagoria Flower Review show her to be a sharp-tongued person who doesn't hesitate to speak her mind. She has the temperament of an artist, too, doing things like judging air pressure from the tension of her violin strings and discussing music theory with Aya. While she's the Prism River Ensemble's leader, one letter to the editor in Perfect Memento and Strict Sense mistakes Merlin for the leader, probably because she stands out the most during concerts. Still, Bohemian Archive of Japanese Red shows that she handles concerts like a leader should, and explains that Merlin is doing her solo performances at Lunasa's instruction, so she's definitely their leader in substance. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, she first appeared in the Mystic arc along with her younger sisters. Lunasa appeared first, didn't she? In the Rainbow chapter? After making friends with Rainbow and the others, they frequently put on performances during parties and ceremonies. There are many scenes where the event's sponsor officially requests them too, which of course is partly because they're friends. Her artistic temperament is especially front and center here. She's sharp enough to compete with even older, more grizzled yokai. At this time of year around here, the air pressure drops. Isn't she great? She's amazing! Alright, and all that's left is Lirika. Lapsed into sleep recollections of the boundary. The theme of the Mystic Arc's final boss.
the yokai sage Yukari Yakumo. Between her dangerous ability, newbie trap spell cards, and her clingy friends, she's a serious threat. Compared to Kobu's range of Yuuko's theme emphasizing her background and full of deep meaning, this arrangement is simply a fight with the yokai Yukari Yakumo. But after coming this far, I have no choice but to abandon any pretense of gimmicks and just give her theme everything I had. After a lot of deliberation, I figured it'd be too hard to make her song fancy without it sounding cliche. Riding our hot streak through, we ended Fantasy Maiden War's first half on a bang. Lyrica. Poltergeist keyboardist, capable of performing illusionary notes. The youngest sister of the Prism Rivers. This entry only covers lyric on an individual level, refer to the Prism River entry to the group. The sounds she makes are phantasmal sounds that don't exist in nature, so they have no particular effect on people's minds. She calls her keyboard the phantom of an ill-fated synthesizer once used by a famous artist, but never sold because of her unique sounds it produced and faded into fantasy. She has a sly personality, and the character setting text file even says she only ever thinks of maximizing her own gains. That said, perhaps because her values are so close to a human's, Akyu describes her as the easiest of the sisters to talk to. In actuality, she comes across as witty, with just the right amount of cheerfulness and a cheeky streak, though not in a way that causes offense. Unlike Lunasa, whom the character setting text file explains enjoys performing solo, and Merlin, who had actually been shown performing solo in Bohemian Archive and Japanese Red, Lyrica has had essentially no depictions of any solo concerts. That said, she claims to be seeking inspiration for her sound during Phantasmagoria Flower View. She also mentions today being the day she starts her solo career, though that was probably when she first performed in front of others by herself. Her first attendee, incidentally, was either Yomu or Cirno, depending on the route. Strictly speaking, she does perform by herself during Perfect Cherry Blossom, but she was with her older sisters at the time, so it probably doesn't count. She says she's looking for inspiration for her sound during Danmaku battles and the like, apparently so that she can hear so many different things and she can create something new. It goes without saying that she's not just performing using sounds that have faded into fantasy, she seems to be looking for a unique sound all her own too. In Fantasy Maiden Wars, Lyrica first appeared with her older sisters in the Mystic Arc. After making friends with Rainbow and the others, they frequently put on performances during parties and ceremonies. There are many scenes where the event's sponsor officially requests them to, which is of course probably because they're friends. She gets along pretty well with Marissa, probably because of her bright personality and matching wavelength. The spirit of this keyboard is full of sounds that have already passed away. I like when they give Lyrica fox eyes, because that's how she be sometimes. But then they do this, and it's like, oh. Oh! Dude. Alright, huge progress, boys. Couldn't you stay a little longer? Akyu, I've been here for 2 hours. 2+ hours. I think I've been here long enough. Well, there you go, chat. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of reading the glossary. Did you learn anything? Did you enjoy? I am enjoying listening to the music and reading the depictions of the characters because I like Toho. That's about all I have to say about that. So, tune in next week when we read more. Or don't. Your choice, really. But, yeah. More next week.